Life insurance will help replace your family's income. It'll help cover burial expenses. Life insurance can even help pay off debt like credit cards and medical bills. Life insurance can even pay for college. And if you own a business and you die, life insurance can help your business from collapsing. It can even help cover estate taxes. Life insurance has never been more affordable and needed. Plus, you can always shop around even if you have a plan and save some money. So call the Life Insurance Quote Line right now for free pricing information.
800-979-3060. 800-979-3060. 800-979-3060. That's 800-979-3060.
The candidates.
We're going to win this campaign.
The issues.
Gas prices, Biden inflation.
The election news, analysis, and opinion you won't get anywhere else. Decision 2022 happens.
There's a backlash coming
on News Talk STL.
I'm Susie Moore, and this is More to the Point. There's nothing quite like enjoying breakfast or brunch at a great restaurant. And I don't just mean those of the fancy variety. Diners serve up some of the best breakfast food around, and with thousands of locations, Waffle House provides that diner atmosphere in readily available fashion. Not only that, with Hurricane Ian fast approaching Florida, I recently learned that Waffle House serves another vital function. The Waffle House Index was cooked up by FEMA as an informal measure of the severity of a given storm or other calamity. It's based on the restaurant's reputation for staying open during and/or reopening quickly after natural disasters. Waffle House even has a storm playbook and special limited menus for times when they may be without power or water. According to the Waffle House Index, green means a restaurant is open and has the full menu available, yellow means it's operating with limited power or food, and red means it's closed. But why limit the Waffle House Index to natural disasters? If we measure things like inflation with CPI, why not measure the economy, even national security, with WHI? The way I see it, even when things look bleak, if you can snag yourself some bacon, grits, and smashed, smothered, and covered hash browns, you can be pretty sure you're going to be all right.
Susie Moore is Deputy Managing Editor for RedState.com. For more to the point and everything Susie Moore, log on to RedState.com. Follow Susie on Twitter at SmoozyQ and keep listening to 1019 and 94.1 News Talk STL. The news and talk
219 Democrats voted to defund the police
that matters to St. Louis.
and take away resources from law enforcement.
News, analysis, opinion.
A plan for a new direction.
1019 and 94.1 News Talk STL. This hour of Jones and Arps is brought to you by Stifel. Contact your Stifel financial advisor at stifel.com. That's STIFEL.com. Tim Jones and Chris Arps in the afternoon.
The 9 most terrifying words in the English language are, I'm from the government and I'm here to help.
The more you remove voting from Election Day, the more opportunity you're offering for people to commit fraud.
Are you not entertained? Are you not entertained?
I think the Democrats are so short-sighted in this tactic they have now to just cheat at any cost to win elections.
You're a lying dog-faced pony soldier. You said you were, but now you got to be honest. I'm going to be honest with you.
What are we doing wrong here?
As a former leader in the House, I think you can put your finger on it. It's called leadership. We don't have it.
Tim Jones and Chris Arps.
Welcome into the Tim Jones and Chris Arps Show here at 1019 94.1 News Talk STL, newstalkstl.com for everything regarding our show and the station. It is September the 28th, 2022, Thursday. Happy Thursday, all y'all. Chris Arps, how you doing today?
Happy Thursday?
Happy Thursday.
Or Wednesday. I do that every week. I do that every week.
Oh my God,
you skipped.
really
It's hump day skip.
Why have I started? Why? What is my hatred of Wednesday? I've been doing that every week.
You know what? It's just the last month that is so right. That's just the last month that every Wednesday you've been saying Happy Thursday.
I got confused there for a minute. I was like, wait a minute.
I'm like, wait, what? What day is it?
You know why I think it sometimes happens to me is I'm already thinking about my morning show. And I'm on Thursday in my head.
Yep.
And it's like, back the truck up. Let's do a little afternoon drive first. So
that makes sense.
Maybe that's it. Maybe I'm just so frenetic. That must be it. I'm also a little frenetic about this freaking hurricane, which has come ashore, not because it's going to affect us here in the heartland, but because I have a boatload of family and friends in Florida. I've been texting with them all day long today, hoping everybody's okay. I'm not happy with my cousin, Jennifer, who decided to bunker in Fort Myers. They're talking about a 16-foot wall of water possibly surging on shore. So I hope Jen and Tom and the kids are okay. My aunt and uncle will be fine. They're just going to get drenched in mid-Florida. My other cousins who are in Tampa have headed inland to Sun City Center, where my aunt and uncle are. And, maybe we, I said this yesterday, Kate, I probably should get you the information. We'll see if they feel like, my Uncle Duke is a retired Coast Guardsman.
Yeah, let's have him call. We should definitely call him.
I don't know if he's ever flown in weather like this, but he did search and rescue. And so we'll see if maybe we can get him or my aunt on the. Sometimes my aunt's the calmer one, to be honest.
Mm-hmm.
So, but anyway, thoughts and prayers out to family and friends in Florida. I know so many people in Missouri have homes there, vacation there, have family there, and they say this is a biggin. This is a big monster storm. So. Hopefully everybody who has family, friends, colleagues, and coworkers there are okay.
I love how our good friend Don Lamont, you say, Tim, was owned on this yesterday.
Was he? What did he do?
So they had, I don't know the guy's official title, but he was with the government. He was with, I think he was with NOAA. The people that National Ocean and Atmospheric, something like that.
Yes.
They deal with the hurricanes. They track them and everything. And Don Lamont was trying to get this gentleman to admit that this Category 5 potential hurricane is because of our friend climate change, global warming, of course. And the guy wasn't biting. He's like... I don't think that, huh?
I have the sound.
Oh, do you? Oh, play it.
Sound.
Oh, I didn't know that. I should probably look at the sheet.
It's fine. We just got started.
So listen, I'm just trying to get that. You said you want to talk about climate change, but what effect does climate change have on this phenomenon?
I just have to pause that really quickly. Don Lemon specifically just said, I know you do not want to talk about climate change, but I'm going to ask you about climate change anyway.
He gets owned.
So listen, I'm just trying to get that. You said you want to talk about climate change, but what effect does climate change have on this phenomenon that is happening now? Because it seems these storms are intensifying. That's the question.
I don't think you can link climate change to any one event. Okay. On the whole, on the cumulative, climate change may be making storms worse, but to link it to any one event, I would caution against that.
Okay, well, listen, I grew up there, and these storms are intensifying. Something is causing them to intensify.
And he stayed at a Holiday Inn Express last night.
I mean, is that just the epitome of just elitism? And I know better than you, and they're supposed to be the science people. And he's like, well, I grew up there. I knew. I know that
they're all about Florida.
I know they're more intense now. I don't care what the computer data, the records, the models say. I grew up there.
And no one's denying climate change. The question is, should we be unilaterally disarming our energy independence and our industrial complex here in this country because of the, I'm sorry, questionable science around man-made climate change, right, Chris? I mean, Chris, the climate has been changing on this planet for eons and many, many, many thousands and millions of years before the first SUV was invented. We've had plenty of climate change on the planet Earth. The question is, are we going to start living in mud huts and driving Fred Flintstone mobiles around because a couple of people who have gotten very wealthy off of this junk science are going to convince our government that we now need to destroy the middle class because of the fake phony theory of man-made climate change?
Yeah, and speaking of electric vehicles, I mentioned this a few weeks back that the state of Missouri was planning to spend $100 billion on green energy charging stations around the highways around the state. That's supposedly the infrastructure for what's to come. And Post-Dispatch had an article. I didn't have time to dive too much into it, but the federal government has approved 100 and maybe a million or billion.
100 million.
Is it 100 million?
Yeah, our entire
100 million for these green energy charging stations. And it made me think, Tim, what we were talking about the other day when we were talking about the criminal justice system and how the public defender system is doesn't have any money and people aren't getting justice because they're not getting proper representation. How much would $100 million, what would $100 million do for the public defender system here in Missouri?
Probably help out a lot. Yeah, this sounds like another silly government pipe dream that we should not be going down and pursuing.
I agree.
Could not agree with you more on that. Thanks for bringing that up. Hey, 341 in the Heartland, we've got to get to a break because our good friend Horace Cooper, Senior Fellow with the National Center for Public Policy Research and co-chair of Project 21, will speak with us about all the issues we just mentioned and likely lots more. Nothing we can't throw at Horace that he can't give us an answer back on. He'll join Chris and I next on the Tim Jones and Chris Arps Show, 101.9, 94.1 News Talk.
Flooring Outlet Traffic Center.
So far, we have normal volume. Northbound 170 finally cleared out at Natural Bridge. We had a bad crash there earlier this afternoon. 64 West has the normal congestion at the city limits. It's also busy up the hill at Lindbergh. 55 South, of course, slowed down from the 44 split in through the work zone. 270 South just busy at Olive and either side of Manchester. 44 West starting to load up at Big Bend. I'm Joe Sonderman. This report sponsored by Discover. That's the latest from the News Talk STL Traffic Center.
They could talk about how complicated other banks make it to redeem credit card rewards, or they could talk about how with Discover, you can redeem your rewards for cash in any amount, at any time. Talk about amazing. Learn more at discover.com/redeem rewards. Terms apply.
From the News Talk STL Weather Center.
News 4 Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton with your first alert forecast. It's going to be a cool one this evening, especially when that sun goes down. The temperatures quickly drop into the 50s, so grab the sweatshirt or jacket for outdoor activities this evening, but we'll be dry. In fact, another cool morning, a low 46, a high of 70 as the temperatures start to edge upwards a little bit. Plenty of sunshine, winds about 5 to 10 miles an hour out of the east on Thursday, and then sunny on Friday with a low 48 and a high of 73. Very gradual warming trend for the end of the week. That's the latest First Alert forecast. I'm News 4 Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton.
Talk radio made in St. Louis for St. Louis. This is News Talk STL.
Our responsibility.
News, analysis, and opinion.
To provide updated guidance.
At 101.9, 94.1, and newstalkstl.com.
Hey, Columbo here for our family dentist, Dr. Matt Boscia at New Creation Dental Care, a one-stop solution for all your family's dental needs, including braces. Dr. Boscia uses the My Forever Smile Braces system, which straightens teeth many times in less than a year for half the price of traditional braces. Traditional braces or Invisalign can cost $6,000 or more, but Dr. Boscia only charges $29.98 for My Forever Smile, and incentives and insurance can lower the price even more. Plus, New Creation offers in-office financing. Learn more at newcreationdentalcare.com.
Stay top of mind with your customers, stand out from the competition, and drive productivity with a podcast for your business from Epic STL Podcasts. Log on to newstalkstl.com and click on the Epic STL Podcast button to learn more.
The Vic Porcelli Show.
She's a great conservative author, film producer, Nina May.
And I keep telling my liberal friends, I say, you think you're going to escape this? No, this is exactly what totalitarian governments do. They start with the low-hanging fruit, and then they're going to go after you because they can't trust you. No, we're going to have to line you guys up against the wall and shoot you.
Wow. You have liberal friends?
Vic Porcelli. Live and local weekday mornings at 9 on News Talk STL.
News Talk STL is proud to have Doug Voss of Safe Money Radio as part of our lineup each week. Doug has been a staple on St. Louis radio for many years as one of the leading financial experts in the area. You can hear Doug and Safe Money Radio 3 times every weekend on News Talk STL. But in case you miss anything, you can check it all out at DougVossSafeMoneyRadio.com. What else do our listeners need to know, Doug?
Simply put, I focus on helping pre-retirees and retirees build, preserve, and protect retirement assets
and I've been helping my clients solve their insurance and financial needs for the past 33 years. I also strive to educate my clients on how to prepare for retirement, minimize the impact of market volatility on their assets, and deal with the challenges of increased longevity. Call me today at 844-676-SAFE. That's 844-676-7233.
Doug Voss is a registered representative. Securities offered through DHL Securities LLLP, member FINRA and SIPC.
Mike Ferguson in the morning.
Well, what do you know? The federal government is not going to run out of money and shut down. They always find a way to get the money. I've got the updates on Thursday's program.
Mornings starting at 5:30
on News Talk STL. This hour of Jones and Arps is brought to you by Stifel. Contact your Stifel financial advisor at stifel.com. That's STIFEL.com.
It's about 20% higher than it was when my predecessor was there. It has hit record after record after record on my watch.
Stocks now down $7.6 trillion since President Biden took office.
Yeah, Chris, that's because 29,000 is a lot less than 30,900, isn't it?
I remember a time when Donald Trump was president, and he would talk about the stock market and how magnificent it was doing under his policies. And the Democrats and the pundits would always say that that is not a total indicator of how the market, how the economy is doing. Well, it's funny, we flash forward here, Joe Biden in a worsening economy with high inflation, and he is touting the stock market,
yeah,
which has been tanking. I don't know what stock market he's looking at.
And how the tables have turned. I'll bet our good friend Horace Cooper has a comment or two on this. Joining us once again on the Tim Jones and Chris Arps show, Horace Cooper is Senior Fellow at the National Center for Public Policy Research, co-chairman of Project 21. Horace, good afternoon. Thanks for joining Chris and I again today.
Hey, it's great to be on the program.
Yeah, so Horace, in conjunction with the fact that Joe Biden's not much talking about the stock market these days because it's about 1,500 or 1,600 points lower than when he took office 20 months ago. Horace, I know you have found a study courtesy of our good friends at the Heritage Foundation that shows not only have Americans lost whatever savings they've had in their 401ks, their pension plans, or their child's education savings accounts, but in general, because of inflation and interest rate pressures, Americans individually have lost over $4,000 in income and over $7,000 for where you have a household with both parents working. Horace, this is not a good economy, and that's usually what's in the forefront of Americans' minds when they go to the ballot box, isn't it?
Oh, yes. As I said actually on Jesse Waters' show, it shouldn't be it's the economy stupid. We should just say stupid. It's the economy. Yes. Unbelievable the devastation that Americans are feeling. And just so you know, when you talk about an average, what that means is that includes people on the high income stream as well as people on the lower income stream. But if you were to drill down to those Americans who are working class, those Americans who are of a very lower level of income, just barely supporting themselves, this amount is actually higher, and it's nearly half of all of their discretionary income for the whole year. That means people are having to decide. They've already cut out cable. They're having to decide, are we going to get the powdered milk, not for kids, but for the adults, or are we going to just simply have whatever the hot dogs and whatever the pork and beans that the lowest price costs can get us at the grocery store. That's what is happening under Biden's policies to many, many working-class families.
Horace, I was very fortunate this week to have an article posted on the nationalcenter.org's website regarding illegal aliens and Martha's Vineyard. You can read that also in our newsletter regarding the hypocrisy of the liberals regarding illegal aliens. They claim that African Americans are their strongest constituency, that they care so much about us, but bringing in all these illegal aliens and giving them green cards hurts African Americans the most and other low-skilled workers at the beginning of the labor force. Can you expound on that some, sir?
Sure. So the Civil Rights Commission, the United States Civil Rights Commission, issued a report, and they found that black men in particular and blacks in general were disproportionately harmed because their ability to command wages was depressed substantially by the fact that there were folks who come in, and remember, they don't have to worry about contributing to Social Security. They don't have to worry about contributing to Medicare. In fact, employers, when they hire these people, they're able to hire them at a bargain because it's all off the books. When you, the American, and in the case of the U.S. Civil Rights Commission report, when you, the American who happens to be black, is getting hired, none of that applies to you. And why would employers eagerly able to get these workers at a substantial discount pay more? Now, I'm just talking about people at the entry level to moderate level of skill set. The higher up the income chain you go, the less likely there is this impact. And that's why you see places like Martha's Vineyard where you have to almost have 7 figures in order to make that your vacations place, can publicly say, we're Sanctuary City. And then the first time any of the people who meet the criteria show up, they are astonished. What are those people doing here? Hey, why aren't they cleaning the bathrooms? We don't have enough jobs for them. What's going on? Where are they going to stay? Even though people checked, and there were thousands of hotels and resort vacancies that all of the 55 people easily could have accessed.
I heard there's a big plantation down by the water, too, that has a lot of space, too, and a former president
Are you
owns
referring
it.
to Obama's place?
Yeah.
He was silent on the issue of allowing people to come in. Now, when he wanted to have that birthday party, even though we were in the middle of where Biden was telling everybody that go to a party and die, a super spreader event, he held that. People came from miles all across, not just even the United States. That was fine. But the tent came out and everything. But let a few people who were migrants that came to this country violating our rules to the very place that said, we welcome you, we celebrate you, you are our priority, we love everything about you except you.
Yeah, Horace, that was amazing how quiet, as you pointed out, Michelle and Barack Obama were through that entire saga and have remained so to this day. Horace, to follow up.
No, wait a second. They did say that if you're not in favor of immigration, you must be a racist. They did speak up on that.
Okay. Oh boy. Horace, to follow up on another point you were just making, we have a very loyal listener Joe, who is a refugee to the Midwest from California. He left there 4 years ago, and he pinged me the other day because he heard us talking about a similar subject like this, and he said, he goes, it's gotten insane out there. You basically are told to just get used to a lower quality of life. He said you have a lower quality of life, and the elitist oligarchs out there like Gavin Newsom just convince and brainwash you that that's just the way it is all across the country. He said since he left 4 years ago, because he's still got a lot of family back there, he keeps his finger on the pulse of things. He said the same simple home has doubled in rental prices. He said a 1,500 square foot home out there that was renting for $1,700 a month has gone up to now over $3,000. So, Horace, my question is, at some point, I mean, are we heading to serfdom in this country? Because how do middle class and lower middle class people, the ones who take all those jobs that keep all these people so comfortable in their places of employment or in their castles built up on the hillsides, where does all the help live, and how do they live, and how do they afford to drive their vehicles as we continue to? I mean, California is kind of the future, where you either have a lot of money, a ton of money, and can afford it, or you have no money and you're basically living entirely on the government.
And Gavin Newsom brags about how well he's been managing the economy of California. But let's just remember, were it not for trillion-dollar outlays made by you and I and the other taxpayers as part of COVID mitigation, they would be on the ropes. The problem, as I see it, is it would have been a lot easier to get the citizens of California, once they realized how poorly managed their state had been by Gavin Newsom, to rise up. It's probably going to take another 5 to 7 years before that recognition occurs, because this is one-time money. This isn't forever money, and the system that they have doesn't work. Those who are the richest, even if you confiscated every single penny they make, aren't able to support the entire network that exists. It requires a middle class. And California is killing off the middle class. They need to have a conversation, but we've allowed them, Nancy Pelosi and Joe Biden, allowed them to put this conversation off for a few years.
Horace, take off your pundit hat, and we got about a couple of minutes, and put on your law professor hat and talk about this latest development where Jenny Thomas, wife of Supreme Court Justice Clarence Thomas, has agreed in the coming weeks to be interviewed by the January 6th committee.
Well, first of all, one of the big concerns that I have about this is an unprecedented event that is occurring, where a sitting justice's spouse is called upon to be answering questions about her activities. The spouse of Breyer, the spouse of Kavanaugh, or any of the other justices on the Supreme Court, they're not being called into question. In fact, media largely avoids. There is a real question about the legal constitution of this committee. In fact, at least in one ruling over subpoenas that were being presented, judges in the D.C. Circuit said that there were still open questions as to whether or not this so-called January 6th committee was lawfully constituted. A lot of folks know this. There are no actual Republicans assigned by the Republican conference. That is, that the minority leader, McCarthy, did not say, these are the people that I wish to select and submit, and there isn't even any proportionate representation on this. How then can they issue any of these subpoenas?
How indeed. Horace, we're about to hit a hard break. Thank you so much. We'll talk to you again real soon.
Thanks, Horace.
Thank you.
We'll be back right after this at News Talk STL with Mayor Francis Slay. Is your portfolio prepared for the biggest risks facing investors today? Hi, it's Tim Jones. High inflation, low interest rates, and a rapidly changing economy may impact your investments. If you haven't made appropriate changes, your portfolio may not be positioned to address some of the biggest risks in today's economy. That means it's time to request your free portfolio review from the Clear Path Wealth Management Group at Stifel. You can hear their latest views on the markets and investing during On the Money, hosted by Stifel financial advisors Bob Stockdale and Eric Robert, every Saturday morning at 9 a.m. on News Talk STL 101.9. They can help you get organized, guide you through critical retirement decisions, and create a portfolio designed around your needs. To schedule your free portfolio review, go to clearpathinvesting.com. That's clearpathinvesting.com, or call 636-695-2650. That's clearpathinvesting.com, 636-695-2650. Stifel Nicholas & Company Incorporated, member SIPC and NYSE.
KLGY HD3 Clayton, K270BW Bellefonte, KNBS Bowling Green.
This is News Talk STL at 101.9, 94.1, and always streaming at
newstalkstl.com.
News this hour from townhall.com. I'm Keith Peters reporting. Hurricane Ian made landfall in southwest Florida near Cayo Costa on Wednesday as a catastrophic Category 4 storm. About 2.5 million people were ordered to evacuate southwest Florida before the storm hit the coast, with maximum sustained winds of 150 miles an hour. Mark Pritchett in Sarasota, Florida, says he's seeing wind-driven rain and water starting to accumulate.
Looks like winds are sustained about 50 miles, like right now. So the palm trees are swaying. I'm also looking at a pine tree that's not doing so well. It's the soil is saturated. I'm seeing a lot of pooling of water everywhere. I mean, large, not just puddles, but lakes.
The hurricane was heading inland where it was expected to weaken, but residents in central Florida could still experience hurricane-force winds. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis says the state will be there for those in need.
We understand this is not just a 48-hour ordeal. This is going to be something that is going to be there for days and weeks and months, and unfortunately, in some circumstances, even years.
Florida Power and Light's Jim Bush says they have more than 19,000 restoration workers ready to start work once it's safe.
These men and women will work extended hours, 16-hour days in some pretty difficult conditions, and as I mentioned, they'll work around the clock until power is restored to the last FPL customer.
Ian made landfall more than 100 miles south of Tampa and St. Petersburg, sparing the densely populated Tampa Bay area from its first direct hit by a major hurricane since 1921. On Wall Street, a good day as the Dow was up by 548 points. The Nasdaq rose 222. The S&P 500 advanced by 71. More on these stories at townhall.com.
Relief Factor, pain relief that's natural, pain relief that works, and pain relief that attacks the source of the pain. That's the experience of tens of thousands of Americans who are taking Relief Factor right now. See their incredible video endorsements at relieffactor.com and then order your 3-week quick starter pack for just $19.95. That's less than $1 a day. Find out if it can work for you like it works for me by ordering your 3-week quick starter pack today. Relieffactor.com, relieffactor.com. Be the next success story.
Hi, my name's Adam Barada. I'm the owner of Advantage Gold, the highest rated precious metals firm in the country. Now, we've won the Best of TrustLink award 4 years in a row because we educate our clients on how to buy gold and silver the right way. We don't pay celebrity spokespeople millions of dollars. We'd rather pass that value on to you. Call 800-900-8000 and speak with one of our experts. We'll send you a free gold kit along with my latest national best-selling book, The Great Devaluation. Call 800-900-8000. Call 800-900-8000.
Activists say...
From the Michaels Flooring Outlet Traffic Center.
We are picking up quite a bit of volume. We haven't had much in the way of incidents or accidents, but South 270 is busy in pockets. Page down past Manchester, then it's fine down towards Gravois. 64 westbound, pretty heavy past Forest Park. It's a little better now at Lindbergh where we had an earlier fender bender. The eastbound side's just crowded at Big Bend. South 55 has the slow traffic through the road work. Likewise for westbound 44 approaching Big Bend. This report is sponsored by Blindster. Save big on new blinds with Blindster.com. Custom-made blinds, shades, and shutters shipped right to you at prices less than the big box retailers. Shop Blindster now and save 45% off any order. Just use the code RADIO. Offer ends soon. Shop today at Blindster.com. Joe Sonderman from the News Talk STL Traffic Center.
From the News Talk STL Weather Center.
Sport Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton with your first alert forecast. It's going to be a cool one this evening, especially when that sun goes down. The temperatures quickly drop into the 50s, so grab the sweatshirt or jacket for outdoor activities this evening, but we'll be dry. In fact, another cool morning, a low 46, a high of 70 as the temperatures start to edge upwards a little bit. Plenty of sunshine. Winds about 5 to 10 miles an hour out of the east on Thursday, and then sunny on Friday with a low 48 and a high of 73. Very gradual warming trend for the end of the week. That's the latest first alert forecast. I'm News 4 Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton.
This hour of News Talk STL is brought to you by Stifel, serving investors for over 130 years. Contact your Stifel financial advisor at stifel.com. That's STIFEL.com.
Hey, folks, crime is something that we often talk about on this program, and it's something that we're talking about not only here in St. Louis, not only here in Missouri, but all across America. Folks are very concerned about it. Folks of all shapes, sizes, colors, creeds, and codes. But have no fear, the Range St. Louis West is here. And look, the Range doesn't only want to be the place where you just simply go buy the tools to keep your family safe and sound, but they also want to provide the proper training, right? Just because you have a right doesn't mean that you shouldn't want to be better at exercising that right. The Range has the best training classes in town, hands down. Don't believe me? Go to therangeSTL.com and just first of all, look at all the offerings they have. It's not just a one-size-fits-all model. They've got all kinds of classes from human trafficking to anti-carjacking, situational awareness, firearms training on handguns, carbines, and shotguns, and more. I mean, when I was in there the other day, they had like 10 different pamphlets on all different kinds of classes, specifically for women, specifically for men, specifically for brand new shooters, stuff for people who have been professional shooters for decades. The Range can take care of you. Why? Because they've got a knowledgeable staff, former and current law enforcement and military professional shooters with real-world experience to help you make a purchase, become more proficient, etc. Thing I love about the Range staff is they're all extremely friendly. It's like they want to give you the knowledge that's in their brains and that they've acquired from decades of working in and around this profession. They're so giving with their time. They're so generous with that knowledge that they have. They want you to have it as well. They also have a fantastic facility where they impart that knowledge. Beautiful classrooms upstairs right next to the inventory floor, the simulator training room, which I got to check out a couple weeks ago. That was a lot of fun. Downstairs, 20 lanes, 3 climate-controlled bays, offering new and experienced shooters a place to train away from all the elements, especially important as we slip into the colder months. It's great training at a great value, and it's the best membership value for shooters, and it's the best training value in town for new and experienced shooters. People come from all over to visit the Range, which is conveniently located right in the county of St. Louis, right in Baldwin, right next to the Baldwin Police Department on Manchester Road. 24/7, check them out at therangeSTL.com, therangeSTL.com.
I'm Dr. TJ, owner of the Institute of Natural Health, co-owner of Optimal Nutraceuticals, and the host of Wellness 101. Wellness 101 is designed to cut through the nonsense and provide you common sense, science-based information regarding health and wellness. On the show, we discuss topics like thyroid health, gut health, hormone optimization, and many others. Our show airs Saturdays at 10 a.m. and 2 p.m. and Sundays at 11 a.m. and 3 p.m. right here on News Talk STL. For more information, visit us at inhstl.com. That's inhstl.com.
Oh, Hank, what a wonderful spider web you have built for us. I love this fabulous space we have right here in the corner of the kitchen.
Thanks, Charlotte. I think I'll build us a vacation web in the coat closet. Oh no, it's the pest control company again with those green wheels. They always kill the mood.
This is Derek, the owner of All Solutions Pest Control. Give us a call today at 636-486-7888. We'd love to help you out. Learn more about our special $67 offer. You can visit us online at allsolutionspestcontrol.com.
If a pest-free home is your goal, call All Solutions Pest Control.
Hey, it's Katie, reminding you to subscribe to our show podcast so you never miss anything that happens here at News Talk STL. Get our podcasts every day on the show pages at newstalkstl.com, or just subscribe to your favorite shows on Spotify, Apple, Google, Amazon, or anywhere else you get your podcasts.
Tim Jones and Chris Arps in the afternoon.
The 9 most terrifying words in the English language are, I'm from the government and I'm here to help.
The more you remove voting from Election Day, the more opportunity you're offering for people to commit fraud.
Are you not entertained? Are you not entertained?
I think the Democrats are so short-sighted in this tactic they have now to just cheat at any cost to win elections.
You're a lying dog-faced pony soldier. You said you were, but now you got to be honest. I'm going to be honest with you.
What are we doing wrong here?
As a former leader in the House, I think you can put your finger on it. It's called leadership. We don't have it.
Tim Jones and Chris Arps.
And welcome back to the Tim Jones and Chris Arps Show, 9 minutes after the hour here on a lovely Thursday. I keep saying it. Wednesday. It's Wednesday. It's
Let's
Wednesday.
just skip it. Just
Happy Hump Day.
Happy Hump Day.
That's what I'll say. September the 28th, 2022. Here at 101.9 94.1 News Talk STL, the Tim Jones and Chris Arps Show with Katie Fitzpatrick. All right, Chris, we've got a very special guest that I haven't spoken to in a very long time.
Yeah, I'm really excited about our next guest. Talk to him about the issue that broke on this morning's Post-Dispatch.
Mayor Francis Slay, former mayor of the city of St. Louis, also a board member of St. Mary's Catholic School here in the city. That's the subject we're going to tackle with him next. Might get in a couple other related matters as well. Mayor Slay, thanks for joining Chris and I here today on News Talk STL. It's really a pleasure and honor to have you.
Well, I'm pleased to be here. Thank you for having me, and certainly good to hear your voice, Tim. You're right. We haven't talked in a while, but I always had a high level of respect for you and the work you did when you were in the State House.
Well, likewise, Mayor Slay. I really appreciate all you did for the city as well and your leadership herein. Mayor Slay, this is an issue that is near and dear to me as well. I, like you, I'm a lifelong practicing Catholic. I'm out in the hinterlands of Eureka, but we're still within the Archdiocese of St. Louis, and we've been talking in and around this issue of potential consolidation and closure of what we don't exactly know. Now, some news broke this morning that gave us a hint of some of these things, but I think there's a lot more news that's going to follow for the Catholic population here in the St. Louis region. The news that broke today was that St. Mary's and Rosati Kane high schools will be closing. Mayor Slay, tell us what you know at this point about this breaking news.
Well, I know that the Archdiocese has made a decision. It was communicated to me through our outstanding president, Mike England, who provides great stewardship for St. Mary's, and he's the main reason I'm on the board, and because I am an alum of St. Mary's, 1973 alum. But what I know is they told us that they're not going to be. St. Mary's is going to be closing as an archdiocesan school. That's as much as I know at this point. They've been providing quality education for over 90 years at that location, and it's an anchor in the Dutchtown neighborhood in the city of St. Louis, and they do provide outstanding education. So it's a big disappointment. And I can tell you that our board and Mike England are not going to take this lying down. We want to not that we're going to change the archdiocese's decision, but we're trying to find ways to keep this school open as a quality Catholic high school for boys.
Mayor Slay, this is Chris Arps, and I grew up in North County, and I remember, the slow closure of the two high schools that were in North County at one time. Transfiguration Grade School and Church eventually shut down. What would you say to supporters of this plan who say that these schools at one time served a purpose when Americans were more religious and our neighborhoods were less diverse, and maybe it's time that these schools be shut down, and they did a good thing, and now it's time to move on? What would you say to those folks?
Well, what I would say is that as far as St. Mary's is concerned, I don't know too much about what's going on at other schools. This is a quality institution. The campus is in pristine condition. The neighborhood needs this anchor. We draw people from around the St. Louis area, including North County and North City, and it provides a quality education for kids who might not otherwise afford it. Our alumni group works hard to provide scholarships and tuition support to students, and it's a school that's, as I said, an anchor in the neighborhood. They won state championship last year in football. They won the finals. I think it was 56-0. So they have quality sports programs. This is a good school, and we have dedicated staff and an outstanding president, as I said. But in the neighborhood needs this. Our families need this. These young men need this kind of education. And so what we want to do is if the archdiocese decides that they don't, because of money or whatever the reason, that they want to get out of leave, not support St. Mary's anymore, we want to find private funding to keep this school open, because it deserves to stay open because of the quality education. And then the archdiocese wants to say, for example, that they only have 220 students or whatever the number is. Well, one of the reasons why the enrollment has dropped dramatically in the last year plus is because, and we know this for sure, is that, we were up near 300 recently, and is because parents didn't want to send their kids to a school that they thought might close. And that's a fact. So that was a problem. Just doing this study caused people to, there were rumors that St. Mary's was going to close. I heard them, but these are people that didn't know what they were talking about. They were rumors, but ultimately, that did come out. But the point is that for me, I'm not going to give up the mission of St. Mary's, and our president Mike England's not either. And we've got a group that's going to try to work on this. This is going to be there's going to be a really heavy lift to help keep the school open. But we think we can keep a quality the building is in pristine condition. You compare this to the Berg, which is staying open, and nothing against the Berg, but their building's in horrible condition. Their grounds aren't as nice as ours. We've got a pretty good, relatively new football field, track, baseball field. I was out there throwing out the first pitch just, maybe 8-9 years ago with Whitey Herzog for the new baseball diamond. And the reason he was because his grandson played on St. Mary's baseball team. They've got outstanding athletics. As I said, they won state championship. They've got, it's just some of the big Catholic schools here, and I'm not kidding, will not play St. Mary's in football. And so, and we just played St. Louis U and beat them. So the point is, it's got quality programming. It's in a neighborhood that needs this anchor, and the school really is. It's a beacon of quality education and an institution that provides not just education, but helps build young men into responsible citizens that are going to be a good part of the community going forward. So we have we have a lot of support, and I've heard this is going to be a big lift. Don't get me wrong, a heavy lift to make this happen. But I'm committed to working with Mike England, who I feel the world about, to keep St. Mary's open as a Catholic school, independent Catholic school, that can still continue its mission.
Mayor Slay, besides taking a little shot there at my old alma mater, the Junior Billikens, which I'll let slide, you made some excellent points there regarding alternatives to public education. And, just to remind folks, Mayor Slay, we've forgotten about you and I, us has-been politicians, even though you were an elected Democratic public servant and I was on the Republican side of the aisle, you and I shared a lot of common interests. We wanted a strong economic region. We agreed that St. Louis was important to be a strong and healthy core for this side of the state and economic engine. And we were also big supporters of educational choice. If public schools work for your kids, great. Let's support them. Let's fund them. But if they don't, then there should be other alternatives. And Catholic schools are a great alternative. Mayor Slay, the question is not whether Catholic education is more or less popular. I think it's maybe more popular than ever as an alternative. And if the free market will allow some of these schools to survive, as you point out, let the folks give it a whirl, right, and see if the interest remains to keep these great alternatives for kids available.
Yep, and you're absolutely right. You were a huge leader in quality education, as I was, and you were a go-to person for a lot of stuff in Jeff City, and I can't tell you how much I appreciate that. Somebody who was a straight shooter, easy to work with, and by the way, you gave us a few pointers that helped us, pull things over the line that we wouldn't otherwise get done.
From time to time, yep.
And it's Democrat, Republican. Hey, the way I always looked at it was, I was in it to get stuff done. To me, it didn't matter whether somebody was a Democrat or Republican. And you can disagree on some basic issues, but in the end, when you have a heavy lift and you need to get stuff going, you got to be able to build alliances with people who can get stuff done. And I appreciate your leadership.
Mr. Mayor, in our closing minutes here, tell us a little bit about what your Catholic education meant to you. I know you went to St. Louis University Law School, which is a Catholic Jesuit institution. Talk a little bit about that.
Well, I could not have had a better experience in school, in the Catholic education institutions that I went to. St. Mary's, got a high level education. I was a very good student, and I was able to do extremely well on national tests. And you learn a lot about discipline. You learn a lot about, it's not just about the education component. It's also about how you conduct yourself as a human being, and how you deal with people, and how you you show respect. And they had great sports programs. I was fortunate to play on a soccer team that went to we went to the state championships, and I went to college on a soccer scholarship based upon my experience at St. Mary's, and then so I got a great education at Quincy University, which is a Catholic education run by Franciscans, and then of course the Jesuits at St. Louis U. I went to law school there. Mm-hmm. I could not have gotten a better education than I did at these quality, faith-based educational institutions, and I really did like the discipline. To me that worked for me. Some people can't work. It worked for me, and all I can say is I was very fortunate to have the opportunity to do that.
Very good. Mayor Francis.
And we're trying to make sure other people have the same opportunity.
Yeah, absolutely. And that is obviously what it is all about. Mayor Slay, before we let you go, is there anywhere people can follow you? Are you active on social media in any regards? Or would you rather people not know anything beyond this interview?
Well, I'm not nearly as active as I am on social media as I used to, but I'm now the executive director of the St. Louis Regional Crime Commission.
Oh.
And you can follow me on Twitter at I'm not even sure what my handle is anymore. I go on Twitter. I do use Twitter a few times a week now. But it's Mayor Slay is my. I still go by.
There it is. Yes, I found it.
Yep. At Mayor Slay is what I still go by.
Oh, very good. Francis Slay, former mayor of the great city of St. Louis. Mr. Mayor, thanks for joining us here today. We appreciate your leadership on this issue and so many others.
Thank you, sir.
All right, great. Thank you for having me, and I appreciate your work as well.
Thank you, Mayor Francis Slay. I haven't spoken to him in way too long. Maybe we can have him back more often. That would be nice. Chris, I miss him. I don't say that about a lot of Democrats, but I miss Francis Slay.
I hear you. He was had a good run, a long run. I remember meeting him one time at an event when I was working for Senator Talent, representing him, and we were at the same room. I think we gave a speech. He gave a speech, and then I gave remarks. I think that's actually the last time I saw him.
Oh, wow.
Great to hear his voice today. Mm-hmm. And we'll keep you updated, folks, because this consolidation issue on schools and churches under the Archdiocese of St. Louis, I know affects a lot of people in this region, and as soon as we have more news on it, we'll bring it to you. All right, we're going to switch gears a bit and talk to that morning show guy, Mike Ferguson, host of Mike Ferguson in the Morning. He'll join us next to talk issues of the day, locally and nationally. I know Mike's got a few words to say on the Amendment 3 issue and the county executive race. We'll probably get into that and lots more when Chris and I speak with him next here at 101.9 94.1 News Talk STL.
expect. I'm Joe Sonderman. This report sponsored by Blindster. Do you need new blinds or shades? Blindster.com offers custom-made blinds, shades, and shutters shipped right to you and at prices less than the big box retailers. Blindster blinds are easy to install and they're guaranteed to fit. Don't overpay for new blinds. Shop today and save big with Blindster.com. From the News Talk STL Traffic Center.
Colombo here for Agers Heating and Air Conditioning. We trust Agers with our home because their number one priority is doing right by the customer. Temperatures are changing outside, and as we transition from warmer temps to cooler ones, if you have any issues keeping your family comfortable, don't wait. Call the great team at Agers so they can address the issue before it gets worse. Because whether it's repairs or replacement, Agers is there with the clarity and attention to detail your home deserves. Contact Agers now at 636-242-6515 or through their website, callagers.com.
Columbo and Katie.
This has been going on for years, especially over the last 2 years when the border has been wide open. States like Arizona and Texas and Florida, there's nowhere along the southern border for all of these people to go. And it's been Democrat policy to give migrants bus tickets and plane tickets and let them go anywhere they want.
Tony Columbo, Katie Fitzpatrick. Weekdays at 2 on News Talk STL.
Hi, this is David with House Sold Easy, and I buy houses cash. If you own a house and you want to sell it fast at a fair price, call me at 314-293-3000. I pay cash and close in as little as 3 days. I buy houses in any condition, any price range, and any location in St. Louis. I'm a private real estate investor who buys several houses a month, and I want to buy more. I buy inherited houses, divorce houses, behind in payment houses. I even buy my tenant won't pay me the rent houses. Do you own a house that is trashed and needs thousands of dollars in repairs? Great, because I love buying junk houses. I buy vacant houses, abandoned houses, condemned houses, and foreclosure houses. If you own a house and you want to sell it fast, call me at 314-293-3000. That's 314-293-3000. 314-293-3000.
Fox News commentary.
Once again, Joe Biden is wrong about gas prices. Is he lying or just that unaware? I'm Tommy Lahren. More next.
The dollar is in grave danger as Russia and China recruit more nations into their anti-dollar alliance known as BRICS. If this continues, how much longer until the dollar is worthless? Stephen K. Bannon here. I urge you to get Birch Gold's free info kit on sheltering your savings with a gold IRA. To get your free copy, text the word SHELTER to 989898. With inflation continuing to explode, it's critical you take action today. Text SHELTER to 989898 right now.
Are 0 states with average gas prices under $3 a gallon, but that's not what Joe Biden wants you to believe. He attempted to pat himself on the back earlier this week at a DNC event, and word vomited that false claim, and heck, even CNN fact-checked him. But in reality, gas prices have been steadily increasing and are still $1.34 per gallon higher than when Joe took office. Joe can't make up his mind, though, because on that same day, he blamed gas stations for prices and demanded they slash prices now. Once again, Joe Brandon passes the buck. Joe, it's your energy and economic policies causing the pain at the pump. You can't shut down pipelines and ramrod climate change plans through Congress and then expect fuel prices to drop enough to make a difference for average Americans. This blame game is getting old, and so are Joe's lies, fibs, gaffes, and half-truths. I'm Tommy Lahren, and you can listen to all of my hot takes at foxnewscommentary.com.
St. Louis's place to talk.
Because that's where the votes are getting stolen. When you get into the facts and logic and reason thing, it drives me crazy because you're right. I call it the oh my God virus.
News Talk STL. News, analysis, opinion.
This hour of Jones and Arps is brought to you by Stifel. Contact your Stifel financial advisor at stifel.com. That's STIFEL.com.
or Philadelphia, where that woman is from, Chris, saying you can't even walk to the store without running or losing your life. This is the United States of America.
We've done a mind meld again because that is actually Chris's Corner at 442, where I'm talking about the new bill that Cory Bush announced today, which is a big shocker, and it's about crime, but not crime in the way that you hope that this money would be spent. And so that's Chris's Corner. That's my tease.
I'm very interested to hear that because I do not know what she filed. So I will learn along.
Yeah.
I will learn along with our audience.
You'll be shocked, but
one.
not shocked.
But not surprised, right? Well, let's talk about the issues that are going to be on the ballot that we believe that voters are going to vote upon, whether it's crime or marijuana here in the Show Me State and more with that morning show guy.
Mike Ferguson.
I'm the world's heavyweight wrestling champion.
Gabe Pfeiffer.
I'm Batman. Get up, can't you hear the alarm? Get up.
I want to be clear. I'm not going nuts.
Mike Ferguson in the morning on News Talk STL.
Well, Mike, before we get into the serious stuff, I don't know if you were taking a nap this afternoon recovering from the morning show, or if you perhaps saw that Joe Biden at his rallies now, he sees dead people.
Yeah, I saw. Oh my gosh, I saw that. At first, it's like, okay, he's going to give kind of a I don't want to say a shout out. That's not a good word for somebody who's passed away, but a remembrance very quickly of a former member of Congress of the opposite party.
Yeah.
But that would have been been something that would have been very nice. But he looks around, is like, well, where is she? Well, Mr. President. Remember, she died. Yeah. And, oh my goodness!
In a horrific car crash. I mean, how do you forget that?
Oh my goodness!
Yeah, it's unbelievable.
Yeah, I saw that. I mean, because it's real easy to take clips of almost daily, taking clips from the president and just putting them up in context, and just to point out kind of this clear cognitive decline. But I saw that, I'm thinking there's just nothing funny about that at all. That's just sad. That's really sad. He's got the code to the nuclear football. Sleep tight, everybody.
Mike, I want to talk to you about baseball, specifically the 700th home run that Albert Pujols hit last week. I want to talk about the little controversial dust-up over it. Kevin Slayton, who I'm a Facebook friends with, he is a radio provocateur, former sports announcer, didn't like the fact that Pujols, after hitting his 7th home run, went over and high-fived Adrian Beltre, and he also didn't like the fact that during the post-press conference that he gave shout-out to the LA Dodgers, who Kevin pointed out he played with less than a season. Is this a made-up controversy, or what's your feelings on it? Did he diss St. Louis?
Nope. He did not. That's a made-up controversy. Remember what I think that Albert Pujols played for the LA Dodgers for about 4.5 minutes, is what he did. The Dodgers signed him, kept him in the game. They didn't plan on keeping him. Basically, they gave him a bridge so that he could negotiate a contract with somebody, probably the Cardinals. And so remember, Albert Pujols at the end of last season, he was not playing well at all. I mean, it was to the point where everybody pretty much agreed that he should retire. He's had a wonderful Hall of Fame career, great career, great numbers, but it was over. And the Dodgers basically said, you know what, we'll make a spot for you, get you through the season, then maybe you can find something for next season. So the fact that he thanked LA and he did it in LA, to me, was just kind of a classy move. And as far as high-fiving Beltre, so what? It's not like you didn't celebrate with the dugout or anything. They weren't in St. Louis. There was only so much that he could do. So, yeah, I say made-up controversy.
Well, they may face the Dodgers again here as they enter the playoffs. We're speaking to Mike Ferguson, host of Mike Ferguson in the Morning, every morning here on News Talk STL from 5:30 to 9 a.m. Mike, we understand that you had an interesting conversation this morning with folks on both sides of the Amendment 3 issue, the pro-legalization of marijuana issue in the state of Missouri. And, Mike, as we've learned on the afternoon show, some very interesting people who you would not think might be for and or against this proposition are coming out on opposite sides of it. What did you learn this morning about Amendment 3 that may have surprised you or that you didn't know?
Yeah, what we had is we had two of the activist groups back to back. There's Legal Mo 22, which is the group that's, they got the signatures and they're campaigning for Amendment 3. And then one of the groups campaigning against it is called Crossing Paths PAC. And if you go to the News Talk STL podcast, you can hear these conversations. The interesting thing is that both of them are pro-legalization. So what you've got here is some groups that you just assume are all on board saying if it's for legalization of recreational marijuana, we're not talking about like hay bales full of it or anything like that, but we're talking about you're not going to get arrested if you have a joint on you or something like that. The Missouri Democratic Party says we're not getting involved in this. We're not taking a side, which is basically the equivalent of saying we're not supporting it. The Crossing Paths folks are more. I think they want a lot more than what Amendment 3 offers. But the biggest criticism that we're getting, and here's the biggest takeaway I got from this to answer your question, Tim, is that you've got what a lot of people say is a controversial or outright flawed proposal with Amendment 3. A lot of people just say, hey, this isn't good, this isn't good, this is good, this is good. But you're enshrining it in the state constitution. And one of the biggest problems that we're hearing is, okay, if we say we want to legalize recreational marijuana with some limits on it, that's fine. I think there's a lot of people who agree. There's some people that don't, but I think a growing number of people agree with that policy. But there's a lot of people saying, wait a minute, why are we putting it in the state constitution and not allowing the legislature to regulate it the way that it would regulate anything else in the state? Tobacco, alcohol, prescription medications, anything like that. Why are you making it above the legislature to do that? So I think the methodology and kind of the protectionism of the existing medical marijuana businesses has got a lot of people kind of scratching their heads and saying, I'm not real sure about this one. So I think you're going to have kind of a free-for-all, and I don't know how this is going to end up turning out at the ballot box, but a lot of the people who want marijuana legalized are not a big fan of Amendment 3, saying we can do it better, we should do it right. And that's the big takeaway that I took.
Mike, the Missouri Libertarian Party, I think, probably raised a little eyebrows this afternoon. And I know that you used to have an association with the Libertarian Party. I think you ran as a Libertarian candidate. They are refusing to endorse Amendment 3, which you would expect that they would. It may be for some of the reasons that we've talked about here. But here's a particular statement that the chairman made that I think explains why they lose support sometimes among conservative voters. This was the chairman's quote. He said, "We don't believe that government or legislation should be involved in marijuana. The fewer words, the better off we are." So we just, how do you make it legal then? I mean, it's just, I don't understand that what he's saying there.
Yeah, it's a libertarian, so you can say, "What is he smoking?" But he's a libertarian. I do want to first congratulate the Missouri Libertarian Party for reminding people that they exist. I didn't even know that there was, and yeah, I was their nominee for lieutenant governor back in 2004, nice. And I was the national field director for their presidential campaign in 2008.
Tony Colombo probably voted for you that year.
What's that?
2004. Tony Colombo probably voted for you that year.
He did, yeah, long before we ever met. But yeah, I mean, it's the much smarter way to say it would be, if we're going to make it legal, why does it take 39 pages that almost nobody is going to read to make it legal? I mean, the Libertarian Party, is they're very, very much pro drug legalization, and you can debate that policy all you want. But yeah, it's a very amateurish statement. I don't really know what they mean by that, other than I'm going to take a wild guess as to what the meeting/party looked like when they decided to scratch it down on paper and release it.
Speaking to Mike Ferguson, host of the Mike Ferguson in the Morning Show. Mike, from the listeners you speak with in the morning, which is can be a different audience, and we invite people to cross-pollinate themselves and listen to all of our shows throughout the day. But from the listeners you listen to, from the people, from the guests that you speak with, from your general sense of things, Mike, where do you think the electorate is going right now as we approach the ballot box, barely 5.5 weeks away? Do you think the issues of crime, inflation, the economy, the border, are going to be the ones that people vote on, which means they're probably going to favor the sane party, which can sometimes be the stupid party, or are they going to vote on abortion on demand, reproductive justice, January 6th, and Trump derangement syndrome, which would be the insane party, that of the Democrats?
Economy. It's there. I think people are voting their station in life, our station in life. And here's the thing: as much as the Democrats desperately want to talk about abortion, and as much as they desperately want to talk about anything else, there is no question whose policies are at fault as to why people can't afford to go on vacations right now, are having to cut back on the amount of food that they're buying, why they can't do some luxury things, why they can't do as much maybe for charity as they want, why they're crunching and why they're putting more on their credit card. We all know which policies changed this. We know that. The independents know it. Yes, the Democrats know it. So I think you can take everything else away, and people are voting the dollars and cents and their station in life economically. I think that's what it comes down to. And that's really good for the Republicans on election day, but it puts a lot of pressure on the Republicans come January to hold the line and get something done after that. So it's one of those things where congratulations, Republicans. You're in a really good position to pick up a lot of seats this year. Beware, Republicans. We're watching very closely that you follow through.
Mike, hopefully a group with standing has filed a lawsuit to stop the president's unconstitutional student loan forgiveness. You know, it would be really great to wake up tomorrow morning and hear some expert talking about this. Is that possible?
You know what? Actually, the Pacific Legal Foundation, it turns out, filed a federal lawsuit in the court of Southern Indiana today. And one of their senior legal fellows is going to be on the morning show tomorrow talking about that at 7:05. So it's so amazing that you brought that up, Chris.
I'm psychic, man.
Really
Anybody
is.
want lottery numbers or anything, text me.
Yeah, that's right.
Hey, Mike, you should ask him about asking Mohila here in the state of Missouri to join that lawsuit. A lot of folks think that our state-based loan processor would be a party to that suit as well.
Yeah, I don't. I hadn't even thought about that. That's what's interesting, because here's why I guess some of the legal experts say that this challenge by Pacific Legal may actually have a chance, and I'm sure we're going to hear about this tomorrow morning from Allison Soman from Pacific Legal. Is that they actually found somebody who is being, in legal terms, injured by the policy. And, of course, with Tim, I'm going to blow your cover here being a lawyer. You know what that means. But what that means is that you're actually somehow financially or otherwise hurt. And so they actually have a lawyer for a nonprofit group who, is because he's working for a nonprofit, he could eventually have his student loans forgiven through the program. But in the state he lives in, which is why this is filed in Indiana, the fact that $10,000 or $20,000 of loan has just disappeared if this program goes through means that he gets taxed on that as though it's income, whereas he wouldn't otherwise. So he actually can show a tangible, legally speaking, injury on this, and that's what makes this case really interesting to a lot of people.
Sure does. Well, we'll be tuning in for that and so much more when Mike, Gabe, and Ken come roaring out of the gates at 5:35 in the morning tomorrow morning. The Mike Ferguson in the Morning Show at AVP Radio Show on Twitter. Mike, thanks for joining us.
Thanks, Mike.
Anytime, guys. Talk to you later.
We'll be listening. All right. There he goes, Mike Ferguson in the morning, 5:30 out of the gates until 9 a.m.
It's always nice to get that little alert in the morning that says from News Talk STL that the Mike Ferguson show is on in the morning. It helps me. And I'm like, wow, it's 5:30 already?
I like that, too. I'm like, there's other people up before the crack of dawn. Mike, Gabe, and Ken are ready to roll. I like that as well. It's like that collegiality we all have here, and it's like, there they go, there the guys go. Chris, you're going to talk about?
Yeah, we've been throwing $100 million around like it's nothing. Well, our illustrious Congresswoman is proposing $100 million to set aside to help Victims Heal Act for those that are been psychologically affected by the police.
What is
isn't blocking, though. 55 southbound, you've got some heavy traffic, of course, from the split headed down towards Bates. It also looks pretty busy approaching Route Z in some pockets. South 270 slow either side of Olive down through Manchester. It's busy at 44 and one more time at Gravois. 44 West loaded up approaching Big Bend as well. I'm Joe Sonderman. This report sponsored by Blindster. Want to save big on new blinds? Blindster.com offers custom-made blinds, shades, and shutters shipped right to you at prices less than the big box retailers. Shop Blindster now and save 45% off any order just by using the code RADIO. Offer ends soon. Shop today at Blindster.com. From the News Talk STL Traffic Center.
From the News Talk STL Weather Center.
News 4 Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton with your first alert forecast. It's going to be a cool one this evening, especially when that sun goes down. The temperatures quickly drop into the 50s, so grab the sweatshirt or jacket for outdoor activities this evening, but we'll be dry. In fact, another cool morning, a low 46, a high of 70 as the temperatures start to edge upwards a little bit. Plenty of sunshine. Winds about 5 to 10 miles an hour out of the east on Thursday, and then sunny on Friday with a low 48 and a high of 73. Very gradual warming trend for the end of the week. That's the latest First Alert forecast. I'm News 4 Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton.
Whether at home or at work, you're mobile.
So when you're mobile, stay mobile.
Keep St. Louis's home for conservative talk with you
Wherever you go.
Download the News Talk STL app in the App Store or at newstalkstl.com.
If you are on Medicare, you need to listen to this message. Open enrollment for all Medicare participants starts October 15th. This is a very critical time of the year for you to make needed changes to your plan.
This is Mike Butts with MB Health Insurance Agency. Regardless if you are new or renewing your health insurance, the process can be confusing and very time-consuming. MB Health is local here in St. Louis, and we will handle your enrollment quickly, properly, and effectively. Find us on the web at mbhealth.com.
MB Health can also help small businesses find the perfect medical coverage for their employees. That's mbhealth.com.
Hey folks, here's great news for active aging seniors. The Kanega Watch, the only medical alert smartwatch with built-in fall detection. Yeah, the Kanega Watch is much different than the other guys. It's a stylish, discreet watch you can wear all the time. Get help through the watch in one of three ways. Your voice, pushing the watch's alert button, or have the fall detection connect you to a US-based 24/7 monitoring center who'll speak to you through your watch and can send help to your GPS location nationwide. And get this, it can do that even if you're not responsive. This is true 24/7 peace of mind for you and those that love you. Order your Kanega Watch with a full refund 30-day trial period. Call now, 800-413-7152. 800-413-7152. 800-413-7152. That's 800-413-7152.
The Vic Porcelli Show.
Thursday at 9:41, best-selling author and Trump advisor Dick Morris is in to talk about the possible 2024 campaign for Donald Trump.
Weekday mornings at 9
on News Talk STL. This hour of Jones and Arps is brought to you by Stifel. Contact your Stifel financial advisor at stifel.com. That's STIFEL.com.
Well, I guess it would be nice.
Crime, Chris, is sweeping the nation, and it's been under the watch of D.C. Democrats and Joe Biden, despite their protestations to the contrary.
Yeah, and crime is so serious that we had to play that cut twice to really emphasize how serious crime is. Crime is up since the George Floyd incident. It's because police have been demoralized. It's because police budgets have been cut. And it's because we have political leaders who should be upholding police as the people that are the thin blue line between violence and anarchy. They are making them the perpetrators and the victims. And we're going to talk a little bit about that on Chris's Corner.
Chris.
The whole thing is a joke.
Good God, we gotta do something here, people.
It's not personal, it's strictly business.
My favorite black leader of all time is Frederick Douglass, who
ask after emancipation, well, we just freed the blacks, now what are we going to do with them? And his answer was, leave us alone.
And if you don't know, now you know.
And now, Chris's Corner.
You know, last night, Mr. Speaker and I had the honor of attending a fundraiser for Andrew Jones, who is the Republican 1st Congressional District. The home that we were at was right on the border between U-City and Clayton. It was a very nice neighborhood. And one of the issues that was brought up during the question and answer session was crime, and how crime could really be a significant issue in this campaign, as they are in all the campaigns across the country. It seems now that you're not safe in the inner city, you're not safe in the suburbs, you're not safe anywhere. And an illustration of that is the host of the fundraiser told a little story about sometimes when they put the kids to bed, they sit out on their front porch and look off towards the east and hear gunshots going on in the neighborhood. And as I said, they live in a very nice neighborhood, but it's very close to part of University City that is not as nice. You know, crime is an issue. It's happening all over. And I think that's one of the avenues that Andrew Jones can use to get support from the African American community, from the white community, from anyone who just wants to feel safe in their homes, who want to come out in the morning and find their car still there, who want to be able to drive down a city street and not have a gun put in their face and somebody stealing it. That's the United States, the St. Louis that we are living in today. But apparently that's not the situation that our illustrious Congresswoman Cori Bush feels that we're going through today. You know, Cori Bush is what you'd call a backbencher. She doesn't pass much legislation, serious legislation, and she's more of an activist than a politician. But today she made a little news and made some headlines that she is introducing a $100 million bill called the, quote, Helping Families Heal Act, which would set $100 million aside for community and school-based programs to help people who have experienced, witnessed, or been in proximity to police violence to help them get mental help. That's according to Bush's office. They say the police disproportionately kills black Americans, which doesn't just impact their victims, but it impacts their families as well. Here's a direct quote from Cori Bush's office from the press release on this act that she is introducing. Quote, "We know that nationally, black people are more likely to be killed by the police than white people. There have only been 5 days in 2022 when police did not kill someone," Representative Bush told Teen Vogue. "The prevalence of this issue we know is felt far and wide. Thousands of families and loved ones are affected when police kill someone, and surviving family members are left with the trauma. If the same way that we're investing in public health support, we need to be taking those steps for victims and survivors of police violence. It's essential." So if I read this legislation correctly, that this is for victims' families, the incident the other day where the young man was 16 and it was Sunday night and was running away from the police with a weapon and reached for it and was shot and killed, under this $100 million bill, I think that young man's family would be subject to compensation because, quote unquote, they were traumatized by a police shooting, whether it is justified or not, it seems, in this issue. You know, I'm sure Nancy Pelosi and all the Democrats, once Cori Bush introduced this bill, had to take a lot of what's the Pepto-Bismol and a lot of calcium pills for the upset stomach, because this is not something that they want to run on in the 2022 midterm elections, especially, Tim, when a couple of weeks ago or last week they passed a bill trying to show that they support police by adding more funding for police. This bill sends the opposite message, and this is the type of legislation that any conservative that is running a campaign all around the country will point to this bill and ask that particular candidate or congressperson, do you support this act? This is something that is grandstanding. As I said, she's not a congressperson. She is an activist. And to paint the police as the the perpetrators of violence, and that these people that are committing these crimes as victims and their family as victims really does a disgrace to their memory, and it insults good old-fashioned common sense. That is Chris's Corner. Give us your thoughts on Cori Bush's $100 million bill to help victims of police shootings. 314-912-1019. $100 million. Wow. And that is Chris's Corner.
Chris, not really helping the cause of trying to win in competitive districts, is the Congresswoman.
No, not at all. And I hope that Mr. Jones can capitalize on this bill that she has introduced, and also let the folks know that he's been endorsed by the Fraternal Order of Police. So he has strong police backing, and he has a strong police platform. And I just want to put this disclosure out there. I forgot that my wife is Andrew Jones's campaign manager. So I may be a bit biased, besides being a Republican.
Well, I'm biased because I like him. And I'll say go Andrew Jones. He told some awesome stories last night. I loved his stories about the old days of what Black America was like, and hanging out with all the fathers and the dads and the guys on the street corners and at night and in your yards. I just thought it was really cool. Chris, we got a lady who's going to she may testify. She may testify on Chris's Corner. She wants to comment on it for sure. Yeah. Tiffany, good afternoon. Welcome to the Tim Jones and Chris Arps Show. You're on the air. We got a couple minutes, Tiffany, but go right ahead.
Hi, Tiffany.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good.
I love the show. I just found it recently, and
great.
I absolutely love it. Nice. Today, whenever you guys said something about getting back at the police, I was very excited, thinking that it was going to be about women getting abused. Because it has happened all the time. And it has happened to me, and I'm sure anyone that's listening to this, it has happened to someone they know. And every cop that does it gets away with it. And it's not right. So I totally agree with you on the race and all that, but I was so excited that something is actually going to be done about that. And it never is.
Within the forces.
Yeah, when I was pulled over, this was like 10, 11 years ago. The officer pulled me over, and my boyfriend at the time, which is now my husband, pulled off because we were driving separate cars, and he pulled in front of me to get out the exit. Well, the officer did not make me go behind my own car. He made me go in front of my car. And he noticed that I was wearing a skirt, asked me to get out of the car. He took advantage of the fact that I'd been drinking and admitted it. And he put his hands up my skirt and my underwear and everything like that. And my boyfriend watched it happen. Yeah. We called and we tried to complain. I tried to talk to everyone. And I ended up getting harassed by the police department. We moved out of that county. Yeah.
And there have been stories of police officers that did this type of stuff, and they have been caught and convicted.
Well, Tiffany, we really appreciate you sharing that very personal story with us. And,
I want to get to the bottom of that.
Yeah.
These officers, we need them, and we need to trust them.
Yeah.
And
absolutely.
God bless them. They're giving their life for us.
Absolutely. There's always bad apples in the bunch, Tiffany. Absolutely. And those should be ferreted out, and they should be dealt with accordingly. Tiffany, we got to roll, but thank you so much for calling. We really appreciate listening to the show.
So much.
Thank you for listening. Welcome home.
Bye.
It's a complicated morass, Chris, when you start talking about, all these kind of issues within and around police departments. And, I look, in every industry, there's bad actors, and we're not condoning any of that. But I think Cori Bush is kind of going after a different angle here on what you were talking about.
Yeah, I think she's acting like the Nazis are jackbooted thugs, and
people need to be, and it's all of them.
People need to be compensated when someone's shot, whether it's justified or not.
Exactly. I totally agree with you on that. And thank you, Tiffany, for your
Talk STL at 1019, 94.1, and always streaming at newstalkstl.com.
News this hour from townhall.com. I'm Keith Peters reporting. Hurricane Ian has come ashore along Florida's Gulf Coast as a Category 4 storm with 155-mile-an-hour winds. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis says first responders will rescue those who did not evacuate.
There's obviously some people who are in harm's way by choice, having hunkered down in their areas. We're praying for them. Obviously, there's going to be rescue efforts made as soon as it's safe to do so. But once the storm hits and passes, it is going to be a very hazardous environment still.
Florida Power and Light's Jim Bush admits that it will be challenging if Ian does as much destruction as anticipated.
It won't be easy. We anticipate that there'll be many downed trees and debris, perhaps tornado damage, and in many areas flooded conditions.
Georgia Governor Brian Kemp has also issued a state of emergency as the storm moves north. The EU wants more sanctions on Russia after what it calls a land grab. Correspondent Charles de Ledesma reports.
Officials say the 27-nation bloc should impose biting sanctions on Russian trade and hit officials responsible for sham referendums held in parts of Ukraine. European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen says the Kremlin orchestrated referendums on joining Russia are an illegal attempt to grab land and change international borders by force. The EU's executive branch has drawn up several rafts of sanctions against Russia since President Vladimir Putin launched an invasion of neighbouring Ukraine 7 months ago. I'm Charles de Ledesma.
A good day on Wall Street as the Dow is up by 548 points. The Nasdaq rose 222, with the S&P 500 up by 71. Oil at $82.15 a barrel. More on these stories at townhall.com.
My brother-in-law died suddenly, and now my sister and her kids have to sell their home. That's why I told my husband we could not put off getting life insurance any longer. An agent offered us a 10-year, $500,000 policy for nearly $50 a month. Then we called SelectQuote. SelectQuote found us identical coverage for only $19 a month, a savings of $369 a year.
Whether you need a $500,000 policy or a $5 million policy, SelectQuote could save you more than 50% on term life insurance. For your free quote, call SelectQuote at 1-800-940-6161. That's 1-800-940-6161. Or go to SelectQuote.com. That's 1-800-940-6161. SelectQuote. We shop, you save. Full details on example policies at SelectQuote.com/commercials.
Here's the Wall Street bit.
From the Michaels Flooring Outlet Traffic Center.
New Halls Ferry, north of Lindbergh, fire and EMS crews are arriving on the scene of a crash that's blocking a lane. Westbound 64 past Kings Highway, there was a minor crash. It's pretty slow, Kings Highway through McCausland, but not much out of the ordinary. 55 South has the normal congestion headed into the work zone in South St. Louis. It was busy approaching Route Z. South 270, 364, pockets down through Manchester. It's also crowded south of 44 to 21. There was a minor northbound incident there. This report sponsored by Ride Finders, and I'm Joe Sonderman. That's the very latest from the News Talk STL Traffic Center.
Don't like sitting in traffic? Do something about it. Register at ridefinders.org and be matched with other commuters who want to save money and the environment by carpooling or vanpooling to work. Do the ride thing. Learn more at ridefinders.org.
From the News Talk STL Weather Center.
Sport Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton with your first alert forecast. It's going to be a cool one this evening, especially when that sun goes down. The temperatures quickly drop into the 50s, so grab the sweatshirt or jacket for outdoor activities this evening, but we'll be dry. In fact, another cool morning, a low 46, a high of 70 as the temperatures start to edge upwards a little bit. Plenty of sunshine. Winds about 5 to 10 miles an hour out of the east on Thursday, and then sunny on Friday with a low 48 and a high of 73. Very gradual warming trend for the end of the week. That's the latest First Alert forecast. I'm News 4 Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton.
When you read financial news updates, popular headlines include inflation, 401ks, and taxes, but bottom line, it all comes back to the number one fear, which is running out of money. If you're close or in retirement, you have two big jobs: protect your life savings and create income for retirement. So how do you do that? You call Steve All and the team at the All Financial Group, and you put together a customized, comprehensive plan. Start checking off those boxes for income for life, tax-free retirement, and much more.
Let's sit down and talk about your questions, because I think that's the most important thing that it is out there. It's what
questions do you have?
Call today, 636-230-8824. That's 636-230-8824. Or go to yourmoneymattersstl.com.
Investment advisory services offered through Retirement Wealth Advisors, LLC. By contacting us, you may be provided with information about insurance products, including annuities, licensed in Missouri and Illinois.
In times of economic uncertainty and chaos, your money means nothing. You may not even be able to get it from your bank or ATM. And the money you do have in the stock market will go down and down. What you can bank on is gold and silver. Gold and silver have been a reliable and trusted form of currency for thousands of years. Gold and silver have never been worth zero, and typically gold holds its value during economic turmoil. Call the Gold Hotline now and learn how to protect your money and your assets with gold and silver. And learn how to set up a new IRA or roll over your current one into a gold-backed IRA. Protect your money from the next market crash with gold and silver. Call now for your free gold guide.
800-281-4224. 800-281-4224. 800-281-4224. That's 800-281-4224.
The Marshall Tucker Band, the 50th Anniversary Tour. Saturday, October 8th, the Family Arena. The Marshall Tucker Band. Can't you see? Can't you see? With Pure Fairy League and Atlanta Rhythm Section. Reserve seats on sale now at the Carroll House box office at the Family Arena or at Ticketmaster. The Marshall Tucker Band. The 50th Anniversary Tour.
It's the Sail On Tour 2022, starring Orleans, Pablo Cruz, Firefall,
You are the woman that I've always dreamed of.
Peter Beckett, the voice of Player, and Walter Egan with Sail On 2022, Saturday, October 15th at the Family Arena. Tickets available at the Carroll House box office located at the Family Arena or at Ticketmaster.
The midterm election. Decision 22 News.
It's going to put some pressure on all of us to up our game.
Decision 22 Analysis.
A midterm election route.
Decision 22 Opinion.
You're going in for a problem.
Decision 2022 happens on News Talk STL. Tim Jones and Chris Arps in the afternoon.
The 9 most terrifying words in the English language are, I'm from the government and I'm here to help.
The more you remove voting from Election Day, the more opportunity you're offering for people to commit fraud.
Are you not entertained? Are you not entertained?
I think the Democrats are so short-sighted in this tactic they have now to just cheat at any cost to win elections.
You're a lying dog-faced pony soldier. You said you were, but now you got to be honest. I'm going to be honest with you.
What are we doing wrong here?
As a former leader in the House, I think you can put your finger on it. It's called leadership. We don't have it.
Tim Jones and Chris Arps.
The Strategic Petroleum Reserve is at the lowest level since 37 years, and you said you've set aside some gas for Florida. Is there a concern that the reserve is not high enough now to handle the aftermath of this emergency and other hurricanes that could come?
I don't have any concerns at this point that we're going to have the ability to handle the fuel needs that we're going to need in Florida. We will continue to assess after the storm passes to see what the impacts are. We'll make sure that we're putting measures in place to support any gaps that we might identify.
The season, you think you're covered?
It all depends on what the impacts from this storm might bring, and so we need to do those assessments after the storm passes.
Short answer, we have no freaking idea. Yeah, welcome back to the Tim Jones and Chris Arp Show, 1019-94.1 News Talk STL. 5:09 in the PM here on a beautiful Wednesday. Happy hump day. I finally remembered it was Wednesday. September the 28th, 2022. Chris, that very question was asked on the Sunday shows this weekend, and I forgot what show I was watching, but one of the Democrats or one of the liberals on the panel basically gave the same talking point answers, the FEMA director. It was it may have been a Fox show, so it may have been like Chris Hahn or Juan Williams, one of the happy-go-lucky, happy warrior Democrats who was brave enough to go on the Fox shows and argue with the conservatives. And they basically said, yeah, why would we have a natural disaster? Well, here we go. Here's one right now. And they dumped out the Strategic Petroleum Reserve, Chris, for a non-emergency, and now we have a real one.
Yeah, and they've really kind of dodged a bullet, because what if this hurricane would have been closer to the Gulf of by Texas and Houston, where we have oil refineries in Texas and in Louisiana. We already have a shortage of fuel and refinery capacity already. I mean, right before an election, that could be a just complete disaster for Biden. And that's not out of the realm of possibility that when this storm does come and hit Florida, that we might have gas shortages from that. And it'll be interesting to see how they respond to that.
Mm-hmm. Chris, we got a couple callers that are been patiently waiting to talk about some of these issues of the day that we've already discussed, the hurricane, and then the very bizarre experience of Joe Biden completely forgetting that Congresswoman Jackie Walorski is unfortunately no longer on this earth with us. Let's go to Gene first on a hurricane point/question. Gene, good afternoon. Welcome to the Tim Jones and Chris Arps Show.
Good afternoon. Thanks for taking the call. To add fuel to the fire, pun definitely intended, we've already got really stretched out supply chains. From a construction standpoint, we're looking at doing some remodeling on our home. We're looking at 17-week lead time for not fancy windows.
Wow.
Same thing for cabinets and things. Now, you consider all the destruction that's occurring down in Florida, all the rebuilding that's going to have to get done, appliances, you name it, whatever to do anything. It's going to be really, really bad, and supply and demand, prices are going to go up, and there is going to be all sorts of grousing and stuff.
Yes.
It's bad deal all the way around. Those poor people down here are certainly in a hell of a mess.
Yeah, Gene, it's a very valid point, and it just will add to the crises that this administration continues to create and make worse. Gene, thanks so much.
Oh, it will.
Yeah, thanks, Gene. We
Thanks,
appreciate
Gene.
you.
You're welcome. Bye.
And we've got Steve on the bizarre Biden. Not only was the person not there like he has done in the past, Joe Biden was shaking hands with people around. This congresswoman unfortunately passed away a couple months ago. Steve, good afternoon. I think you have a comment on Representative Jackie Walorski.
Yes, sir. Hey, I'm thinking, now this is a little bit of fun here. Maybe they should look at what's in shampoo that these little girls are putting in their hair, because something's not right in his head. So his first wife, if I'm not mistaken, she died in a car accident.
Mm-hmm.
So somebody should have told him or talked to him before going out there and saying anything, and tell him, Joe, don't make any comments about this, because this is going to go bad, and your wife, your first wife, you might not remember, but she died in a car accident.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, it's a valid point, Steve. Thank you so much for calling the show.
Wrong with that.
Yeah,
All right,
we appreciate it. Yeah, Chris, I mean, okay, his handlers know that he has trouble sometimes with context. They know he's in Indiana. They know he's going to talk about this bill. They know that there were certain sponsors of this bill. One of them was the now deceased Congresswoman Jackie Walorski. Maybe they remind him, hey, Mr. President, don't mention the Congresswoman. Or if you are, say, my dearly departed friend or something like that.
I don't think it makes any difference, because we've heard the president several times say to reporters, hey, I'm not supposed to be saying this, or I'm not supposed to be doing this, and does it anyway. So I think they can tell him all that stuff, but he's so far gone now, he's just going to do it anyway.
Somebody asked me this weekend, Chris, might have been one of the charity golf tournaments I played in. Yeah, somebody did ask me, said, so Tim, who's really running the White House? And I thought it was a very profound question to ask. It's an avid listener of our show, and they were serious. They weren't like being funny about it. And I threw out some of the names you and I often throw out. Valerie Jarrett, maybe Susan Rice.
Joe Biden, she's got a hand in there. She's got to prop him up.
Various Obamatons, I don't know.
And Barack Obama. I mean, I think the total Wizard of Oz behind the curtain is Barack Obama, and his minions, Valerie Jarrett and Susan Rice, are doing the bidding. Maybe, I sincerely believe that.
People like what with some of the others, David Plouffe. I don't know that Axel Rod's involved or not. Maybe Rahm Emanuel. I mean, I don't know. Could be.
But it's definitely not.
It's not
Biden.
him. It's not him.
I think it could be a numerous amount of people could be running the show. But the scariest part is, no matter who it is, it's not Biden.
And the problem with that is, we're not just saying all this to be funny or to poke fun. we are supposed to be a place where the president is the leader, right, of not only the country but the free world, not some unknown shadow government behind the scenes. That's what they do in dictatorships and totalitarian oligarchies, you know? So that's why I think it's troubling. Speaking of totalitarian oligarchies, that's not what Italy is these days. Although, if you were to believe the global corporate media, you would think that Italy was going to explode in an inferno of Nazi fascism at any given moment because of the election of the new prime minister. And that is the subject of today's stump speech.
Listen to me, listen to me.
I'm very consistent. I'm a very stable genius.
You want answers. I want the truth. You can't handle the truth. Are you not entertained? Are you not entertained?
So that's another reason we need communism.
It's time for the Speaker's Stump Speech, sponsored by Hanson's Tree Service at hansonstree.com.
So I know some of you who are avid listeners to the show, who listen to Chris and I from post to post, are thinking, wait a minute, didn't we already do this? Didn't Tim already talk about Giorgia Meloni the other day? I did. And I usually don't go back to subjects so quickly, but I can't help myself on this one because there is a big group of intelligentsia in the global media who have absolutely lost and are continuing to lose their ever-loving minds about the election of this young woman to prime minister in Italy. I mean, when was the last time before this that we talked about Italy on this show or this station, other than Vic Porcelli and I every once in a while talking about our Italian heritage and our love of muscatoli and meatballs, you know? Maybe a story here and there about, you know, our past or our lineage or our ancestors. But, you know, as far as like Italian politics, I can't remember the last time we talked about Italy. Now, Italy's an important country, but it's not top of the fold headline news every single day. Isn't it interesting that the left and the corporate media has made it so? They're obsessed with this woman. It reminds me of Trump derangement syndrome here in this country. So I've termed it Melonia madness. That's what they've got. Now, let's be honest. Giorgia Meloni is no freaking fascist, okay? I did not know a thing about her political party, the Brothers of Italy. I honestly wasn't sure if I knew if she existed or not. She's been around since 2006, so it's not like she popped out of the ground or was dropped off from a spaceship and she's suddenly the most dangerous person on the planet and she may be an alien presence. No, they all know Giorgia Meloni in Italy because she's been in their parliament for, 16 freaking years, okay? So she's a known commodity, at least in that country, and people knew what they were getting when they were voting for her. So no, they did not vote for a return to Mussolini. They did not vote for fascism or Nazism. Look, they have a part. First of all, she's not going to. She couldn't commit a fascist takeover of Italy, even if she wanted to. They have a parliamentary system of government. So first of all, we're not even sure if she's going to survive for very long, because remember, in parliamentary systems, they've got votes of no confidence. They have to put together a big, giant, multifaceted government. So I personally hope she's successful. I hope she has a long tenure. But in these parliamentary systems where they've got 15 different factions, not just two political parties that only have elections at the very most once every 2 years and national presidential elections once every 4, things change a lot more often in parliamentary systems. They're a little more subject to the whims of the people. So you know what? If they get tired or bored or they can't stand Meloni anymore, the likelihood is she could get voted out of office and return back to her seat in parliament she held before. No harm done. Now, I hope she has a successful tenure. I hope she does great reforms in Italy. But if you Google Meloni is no fascist, like I did today, you'll actually come up with a bunch of articles where people are saying, no, she's not. And some of these articles aren't really big fans of her, but they just explained a lot of what I did. They said that the comparisons to Trump are, you know, there's maybe some similarities on the surface. But for instance, Meloni is hardcore pro-Ukraine, okay? A lot of the so-called fasci Nazis are not these days. So she's pro-Ukraine. She's also pro-family. She's also pro-NATO. You know, she's not somebody that you can just say, well, she said something once about Mussolini being a strong leader. Oh my God, she's a fascist, right? That's, I think, what the unintelligent, ignorant globalist media is doing. They're picking and choosing little bits and morsels from her past, and they're therefore declaring that she's some kind of fascist who's going to ruin the entire country of Italy. No, I think what it is there's a bigger story here. They're not necessarily afraid of what Giorgia Meloni is going to do in the country of Italy. I think they're more worried about what she represents. She represents a trend that started with Brexit, was continued with Donald Trump, was continued with Liz Truss, and is now seen in Giorgia Meloni. Oh, I also forgot Viktor Orban in Hungary. There's a trend around the world pushing back on globalists and globalism, pushing back on the idea that, oh, if we all just sing Kumbaya and we are the world and forget about the fact there's really dangerous dictatorial tyrants on this planet, like Vladimir Putin and Kim Jong-un and the rest of the gang, that everything will be, oh, just so fine. If we all just share and share alike, we'll all be equal. Yeah, equally miserable under these socialist policies that have been an absolute abject failure for the Eurozone since World War II. No, Giorgia Meloni breaks the mold on all of that. She says, no, we're going to do things differently. We're not going to do things your old Euro socialist model way anymore. We are going to put Italy first, because if we can't take care of our own country first, then we can't take care of anyone else. And that is a proper way to express your nationalism, your pride in your country. And it's not fascist at all. And that's the stump speech for today, September the 28th, 2022.
Yeah, stopping illegal immigration, sovereign borders is fascist. I'm not going to get to the point, and Europe is like that. Liberals are like that in this country. That the only time it's okay to show the flag or be patriotic is during the Olympics. Other than that, you're a racist or you're jingoistic, and I'm not going to fall into that. And Giorgia Meloni sounds like she's not either.
Mm-hmm. Exclamation point there, Chris. Thank you very much for that. 5:22 in the Heartland. When we come back, we're happy to take more of your phone calls, which we have time to do, at 314-912-1019 on any of the subject we discussed today, either Chris's Corner on Cori Bush's brilliant new idea,
100 million,
the Speaker's stump speech on Giorgia Meloni, or any of the other subjects we've touched on here today. Give us a ring, 314-912-1019.
From the News Talk STL Weather Center.
News 4 Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton with your first alert forecast. It's going to be a cool one this evening, especially when that sun goes down. The temperatures quickly drop into the 50s, so grab the sweatshirt or jacket for outdoor activities this evening, but we'll be dry. In fact, another cool morning, a low of 46, a high of 70 as the temperatures start to edge upwards a little bit. Plenty of sunshine. Winds about 5 to 10 miles an hour out of the east on Thursday, and then sunny on Friday with a low of 48 and a high of 73. Very gradual warming trend for the end of the week. That's the latest first alert forecast. I'm News 4 Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton.
From the Michaels Flooring Outlet Traffic Center.
Westbound on 44 past 7th Street, we've got it crashed. Looks like it's blocking the right lane, so traffic is heavy and slow back east of the Poplar, north of the Poplar, however you want to put that. Then you have heavy traffic through the construction zone. 64 westbound is slow, approaching Kings Highway most of the way to McCausland. That's due to an earlier fender bender. 70 westbound, really the heaviest stuff is right at the city limits, and then again approaching 4064, it was sort of busy as well. And we have some slow traffic 270 southbound, but it's mainly in pockets approaching Olive down through Manchester. I'm Joe Sonderman. This report sponsored by Farm Safe 811 from the News Talk STL Traffic Center.
Farm Safe 811 starts with you. Always call 811 and wait for any underground lines to be marked.
Always keep safety in the back of your mind. Just stay humble.
For more information, go to farmsafe811.org.
Hey folks, Tim Jones here of 1019 941 News Talk STL. Join Chris Arps and I and the St. Louis Young Republicans for the annual Freedom Fest Barbecue. The second annual event will be on Sunday, October the 9th at the St. Louis County GOP headquarters at 11:30 a.m. Special guests, Attorney General Eric Schmidt, Secretary of State Jay Ashcroft, State Senator Bill Eigel, and more. Stand against tyranny, strengthen the conservative movement, enjoy tasty eats at the St. Louis Young Republicans Freedom Fest Barbecue. More information at newstalkstl.com.
Are you looking for the cheapest prices on car insurance? Then call the Cheap Car Insurance Hotline right now. Hey, you're guaranteed to save money on your car insurance. Most car insurances can be canceled at any time. That means if you find a better deal, you can switch right away. We're not just one company. We offer most of the major brands of car insurance. We're like a discount supermarket for car insurance. And it doesn't matter if you have a good record or a bad driving record. Our agents are experts at finding you the right car insurance for your needs. Our average customer saves hundreds of dollars a year when they call us to switch. So why don't you make this 100% free call right now and see how much you can save on your car insurance? Paid for by AIS Insurance.
800-721-5741. 800-721-5741. 800-721-5741. That's 800-721-5741.
When is a financial help show not just a financial help show? When it's Pocket Watching with JT, the caller-driven financial talk show focused on helping you get your money right. Jason Thornton is a certified financial planner licensed in both tax and investments. You get JT's real reaction to all your money and business questions. Plus, you get JT's take on all the latest financial news. This is not just another financial show. Pocket Watching with JT now every Friday night at 8 p.m. on 1019 941 News Talk STL.
St. Louis's new choice for conservative talk.
Here's what the illiberal left does not get.
Live and local.
We're at least going to talk to the person who is on the ballot, and let's see how serious she is about running.
This is News Talk STL. This hour of Jones and Arps is brought to you by Stifel. Contact your Stifel financial advisor at stifel.com. That's STIFEL.com.
That Chuck Graham, state senator's here. Chuck, stand up, Chuck. Let him see you. Oh, God love you. What am I talking about? I tell you what, you're making everybody else stand up, though, pal. Thank you very, very much. I tell you what, stand up for Chuck.
I found it, Tim. This was September 9th, 2008. So this was during a campaign stop for them where he told a man in a wheelchair to stand up.
Yeah, that was former state senator Chuck Graham, and that was my second year in the legislature. So yeah, I remember this. This was a big to-do. Of course, I was not at a Biden campaign
That's
event.
our next question. Were you there?
I was not there, yeah. But I heard about it. We all heard about it. But again, Chris, just like now, back then, it was, oh, that's just old goofy Uncle Joe from Scranton. He makes those gaffes all the time. And so, Chris, the media has been covering for Joe Biden for pretty much the entirety of his public career. You know, they laughed it off. If a Republican had done that, Chris, they probably would have been forced to resign back then.
Yeah, and they would have said it was cruel. How could you humiliate a man who's suffering a disability? He knows he can't walk, and now you've embarrassed him in front of the whole crowd. I mean, that's how they would have painted it, especially if it had been Trump. It would have been a negative, not just a faux pas.
Absolutely. Could not agree more. And now, though, Chris, I don't know that we can call these gaffes, can we? These are different from gaffes. These are calling out people that you've been likely told. You know, come on.
He has.
We know that Congresswoman Borlowski is no longer with us, so he's been told that as well. Yeah. Shaking hands with the Invisible Man at the Iowa event. I mean, I think he did that twice, didn't he?
Yeah, he did.
Yeah.
And just recently, he and Jill Biden were at an event. This might have been yesterday or possibly the day before. And once again, we have a moment where like Jill is clapping. She's the last one to speak on the podium. And then we catch her telling Joe directives of being like, okay, Joe, get down now. Okay, let's go to the left. Keep going to the left. We need to get off the stage and keep going to the left. And we catch these little moments that aren't supposed to be caught between Joe and Jill. And I would get it if it was like a humongous crowd and it's really rambunctious, it's so noisy, and you're trying to help the president, because of the noise and the craziness that's around you. But I don't remember Obama or Trump or anyone that has been a president in the last 15 years having to take directives from the first lady on how to get on and off of a stage.
Yeah. Look, it went to a whole new level for me when he finished that speech and turned around and was trying to shake hands with an invisible person. Look, we can laugh off him reading parts of the teleprompter that you're not supposed to read and, some of the other things that he said. But when he turned around and was in a complete daze trying to shake hands with a invisible person, that's when it went to a whole nother level for me. And it really show this guy is not all there.
Yeah, and it keeps happening time and time again. You see that. I know what I was looking for. One of our listeners hit us up a break or two ago when we were talking about this. Glassy, L Glassy on Twitter. She says, "My husband's grandma has dementia, and she asks where her husband is every minute or so during family gatherings. Her husband died 6 years ago, and she tagged all three of us on her point there." And so, and when you have the early onset of whatever cognitive disorder, you do have your good days and your bad days. We're not saying he's completely gone, but he is supposed to be serving with all of his faculties intact as the president of the United States. And as Mike Ferguson mentioned earlier in our show, this is a guy walking around with full access to the nuclear football.
And Becky tells a similar story of Alzheimer's with her grandmother, that her husband had died years before, but in her advanced stages of Alzheimer's, she would ask where he was, and they would tell her, he's passed. And, it would take a couple of minutes, and then she would understand it, and then later in the day, she'd ask again, where is he? And she'd tell them that. And what they finally just decided to do was just say he's out fishing. And she said, "Oh, okay. I see him when he gets back."
And this is on the political spectrum of all of this too, and why it is so important for. We know that moderate Democrats are also questioning the faculties of Joe Biden, but what's so important about this discussion is that there was never a day that went by towards the end of Trump's presidency where the Democrats didn't try to invoke the 25th Amendment. There was never a breath that was ever taken where they weren't talking about the 25th Amendment with Trump because he sneezed, or because he might have been like looking like he was walking weird, or because we didn't get his physical back instantly from the doctor. And yet there might be discussions that are happening surrounding the 25th Amendment on more moderate, I might be giving this way too much credence, but on more moderate places, they might be saying, like, is he all there? Is this a time to be talking about this? But for the majority of the media and for the majority of the pundits who voted for him, not a word is said about the 25th Amendment.
Remember after the January 6th incident, there were reports talking about that Trump is despondent.
Yes.
Trump may use the military to do certain things, and the chief of staff or the joint chief of staff said that he was going to ignore the president's order if he did anything crazy. They were
pressing it hard.
Pressing it very hard. And here's a guy that's clearly something's wrong with him.
Undeniable.
And it's like crickets.
I was just going to make that point. When Trump would have trouble walking down an icy stairwell in minus 20 degree weather, 25th Amendment, impeachment, get him out of office. And Chris, you're right. It is that the silence is deafening with a guy who's obviously having issues because we play them like we have the receipts, we have the audio, we have the video, and it's not just happening once. It's and further prove our point. They hardly ever let the guy make any appearances that aren't completely and utterly managed and staged, and he still screws those up.
And I wonder, too, how much of this are they naturally protecting him because they're both ideologically aligned, but how much of it is also, I lost my point. Go ahead, guys.
Well, I think that a lot of it is protection of him, like micromanaging in some cases, over using his staff so that he doesn't make as many blunders and mistakes, so that the American public kind of does have a veil over the entire, like the destruction he is actually capable of doing. But don't forget that the people that were around him for a very long time like Joe Biden, were pushing for his staff to lay off that micromanaging. No. They said, let Joe Biden be Joe Biden. Take the baby gloves off and allow him to be him. I think the staff looked at each other and they're like, we can't do that.
Yeah. And my point I was going to say, I was wondering if they are soft on him too, because they're basically responsible for electing him.
Yeah.
And, it's like, hey, we got to cover for this guy and carry him because the coverage that we did on him in 2020, we let him campaign for in the basement. So we basically helped elect him, especially when they, the Hunter Biden laptop story, when they buried that.
Mm-hmm. Well, and I mean, your example is so great. Look at the turnaround from Jen Psaki when she was the press secretary.
Oh my goodness, yes.
She had to buy into the product because she was one of the people that were part of the staff, and then became the press secretary and fought so hard for him to be the president. And now we see her on whatever show now she's a panelist or a contributor
on NBC.
On NBC, and she's like, "Well, if this is a referendum on the president, then we might lose."
Boy, how quickly she threw that body under the bus, huh?
And maybe, what do you think, guys? I mean, here on the show, I always try to play devil's advocate. How much do you think of that is maybe she's trying to motivate the Democratic base?
Could be.
As well, that, hey, this is dire straits, dire situation, guys. If you don't come out and this is a referendum on the president, we're going to lose.
Mm-hmm. Could be.
Yeah. And there's part of that, although she's causing problems for her successor. Because now poor Corinne Jean-Pierre has to answer difficult questions like, why is Jen Psaki, who just left here, saying different things than you? And Corinne does not have the talent level of Jen Psaki to think on her feet with a question like that. So I don't know. It's just interesting that Psaki literally just left that podium and now is saying very different things from when she was there.
Yeah.
It's going to be, I'm looking forward now. She's like become must-see TV,
Maybe it's a little journalistic honesty, integrity we're getting.
Or maybe she's trying to help her own career.
I think it's a mixture of both. I think there, as you said, Chris, this is undeniable, the things that are happening with Joe Biden in this administration. You can't look at the economy and not flinch. You can't look at inflation and not flinch. You can't look at your pocketbook. You can't look at the war that's going on in the Ukraine. You can't look on the money that's being spent for the war in Ukraine still. All of these different factions of what's supposed to be going on that's supposed to make good policy, the president hasn't done. So whenever you are now a panelist / contributor on NBC and someone asks you a question like Chuck Todd, you don't necessarily need to defend the president anymore. That's not your position. You can kind of guard your own butt and say, well, I'm looking out for number one now, which number one is Jen Psaki.
You know what? I'd like someone to ask Jen Psaki on her new show that she's going to have on MSNBC, or her contributorship. Did you guys know that Jen Psaki was a competitive backstroke swimmer at William and Mary? I'd love to get her thoughts on what does she think about the Penn State swimmer that's demolishing all the female records. I wonder if she would have any thoughts on that.
I wonder too.
We'll never hear that question on MSNBC. You know that, right?
Heck
right?
No. We're too busy talking about how Hurricane Ian is affecting, why climate change is affecting Hurricane Ian.
Yeah.
Absolutely, indeed. Hey, before we go to break, by the way, William and Mary, my wife's alma mater. I wonder if Suzanne's told me that she knows Psaki went there.
Graduated in 2000.
I'll have to bring that up with her this evening. Folks, as we're going to the break, would love for you to jump on newstalkstl.com and subscribe to Katie's newsletter. What do they have to do for that, Katie? Is there like a link on there or something?
NewsTalkSTL.com. Go to, I believe, Connect, that tab, and then you'll see newsletter. All we need is your email. You can give us your name if you want to, but all we need is your email for you to sign up to the newsletter.
There is a ton of great stories on there from content that we've had. There's some funny cartoons. There is the featured interview of Jeff Rowe with Chris and I. And there is the notice about the October the 9th barbecue.
Yes.
St. Louis Young Republicans Freedom Fest, which Chris and I will be emceeing at. So all of that is in the newsletter this week.
We get a forecast yet?
I think it's going to be nice.
Okay.
That's all I know.
That's all I know. I think it's
I
going to
think
be
you guys
nice.
are lying to me.
No, it's not going to be bad. It's
All
gonna
right.
be-
Wink, wink.
I need like specifics.
There will be no hurricanes.
Humidity,
There'll be no hurricanes.
temperature, dew point.
There'll be absolutely no hurricanes. I can promise you that.
Yes.
All right. Hey, when we come back, we're happy to speak with all of you all. 314-912-1019. 314-912-1019. Oh, I got some news about something I've been complaining about for a long time. Being able to watch the St. Louis Blues on television because of all the changes in the streaming world. There's some good news, but you're going to have to pay for it, of course. All of that and more when we come back here at 1019 94.1.
Westbound on 44 past 7th Street, we've got a crash. Looks like it's blocking the right lane, so traffic is heavy and slow back east of the Poplar, north of the Poplar, however you want to put that. Then you have heavy traffic through the construction zone. 64 westbound is slow, approaching Kings Highway most of the way to McCausland. That's due to an earlier fender bender. 70 westbound, really the heaviest stuff is right at the city limits, and then again approaching 4064, it was sort of busy as well. And we have some slow traffic 270 southbound, but it's mainly in pockets approaching Olive down through Manchester. I'm Joe Sonderman. This report sponsored by Farm Safe 811 from the News Talk STL Traffic Center.
Farm Safe 811 starts with you. Always call 811 and wait for any underground lines to be marked.
Always keep safety in the back of your mind. Just stay humble.
For more information, go to farmsafe811.org.
From the News Talk STL Weather Center.
News 4 Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton with your first alert forecast. It's going to be a cool one this evening, especially when that sun goes down. The temperatures quickly drop into the 50s, so grab the sweatshirt or jacket for outdoor activities this evening, but we'll be dry. In fact, another cool morning, a low 46, a high of 70 as the temperatures start to edge upwards a little bit. Plenty of sunshine. Winds about 5 to 10 miles an hour out of the east on Thursday. And then sunny on Friday with a low 48 and a high of 73. Very gradual warming trend for the end of the week. That's the latest First Alert forecast. I'm News 4 Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton.
Subscribe and watch your favorite News Talk STL shows.
Mike Ferguson in the morning, The Vic Porcelli Show, Columbo and Katie, Jones and Arps.
Webcam streaming on Facebook, Twitter, Rumble.
Subscribe and watch
News Talk STL.
Since 2007, the state of Missouri and local governments have handed out almost $5 billion in tax subsidies or abatements to private developers. That money could have gone to basic services like schools and public safety. And studies show these subsidies don't produce the promised jobs and growth. If developers want to build a sports stadium or shopping mall, why should they be given our tax dollars to do it? It's time to reform economic development subsidies. The Show Me message has been brought to you by Show Me Institute and Show Me Opportunity.
Start a podcast for your business today with Epic STL Podcasts. Engage existing and potential customers, build trust in your brand, and drive traffic to your business. Log on to newstalkstl.com and click on the Epic STL Podcast button to learn more.
Mike Ferguson in the morning.
I know, Dave, you were on the first day. I remember that.
Good morning and happy anniversary. I'll keep it short. Most of the things I like about the station, you actually take calls. You don't give the number out and then have somebody on hold for 2 hours. Oh, sorry, we couldn't get to your calls. Or you could send me a text. You know what? Why don't you kiss my behind? Happy anniversary. I love the station.
Weekday mornings, 5:30 till 9.
On News Talk STL.
Do you have a property that is more hassle than it's worth? Hi, this is David with House Sold Easy, and I buy houses cash. If you own a property and you want to sell it fast at a fair price, call me at 314-293-3000. Do you own an ugly property, a behind on mortgage payment property, a lazy tenant that won't pay rent property, a too much junk and clutter property, or even a, hey, I'm curious about a fair cash offer property? Well, don't worry. I buy them all, and I want to make you a fair cash offer. Call me at 314-293-3000.
Mike Ferguson in the morning.
Well, what do you know? The federal government is not going to run out of money and shut down. They always find a way to get the money. I've got the updates on Thursday's program.
Mornings starting at 5:30.
On News Talk STL. This hour of Jones and Arps is brought to you by Stifel. Contact your Stifel financial advisor at stifel.com. That's STIFEL.com.
Supply chain even before the pandemic. It was almost predictable, but the pandemic brought it to the fore in a very vivid and clear way, which is that we have to diversify our reliance on essential supplies. Japan, the United States, and the world.
Wise words coming from our White House.
Did they talk about it, Chris? I don't remember them talking about the supply chain issues before the pandemic.
And what's even scary about that is she's actually reading that, which means that somebody sat down and wrote that, and I'm sure it went through several channels for approval until they said, okay, it's okay that the vice president can say this. And it sounds like completely gobbledygook. Maybe, when you write stuff for people, Tim, you try to write in their voice, in their head of how they would do things. The White House, her speechwriters seem to be writing in gobbledygook.
They're all confused over the vice presidential mansion. There's so many problems. We could sit here for the next hour and dissect that statement because, no, Democrats did not talk about this. In fact, Chris, when they were approached about it, they said, like inflation, it didn't exist. There was no supply chain crises.
Yeah,
we were all imagining that.
Yeah, and when the actual supply chain crisis was happening, our illustrious transportation secretary Pete Buttigieg was home with his husband, breastfeeding the brand new baby, while
chest feeding.
No, chest feeding. Excuse me, chest feeding the brand new baby while our supply chain is going to hell.
Yeah,
and babies and. I'm sure Buttigieg and his husband didn't have any problem trying to get formula for their baby.
Probably not. Yeah. And going back to her statement on
probably
another...
saved breast milk, though.
It maybe did.
Yeah.
On another point, if you take her at her word that so many of us brought up these problems with the supply chain before the pandemic. Okay, well, the pandemic occurred in March of 2020. So if people like her, if we're to believe her that she brought up these issues on the supply chain before March of 2020... then, Chris, what has she been doing about it for the last 2.5 years?
And I tell you, too, let's look at this logically. If they would have brought up problems or things about the supply chain, that means they would have known how terrible things would be if you shut down industries and businesses and let things get bottled up.
Yes.
It seemed like you would know that, hey, this is probably not the right thing to do because we shut everything down. We're going to have bottlenecks and inflation and things are going to happen. Let's not do that. So it obviously tells me they weren't thinking about this, or either they showing how woefully inadequate they are in economics and supply and demand.
So they did not know about these issues, but even if they did, she just proved that they have done nothing about them. And they've been going on for 2 to 3 years. She's been in power with her boss, Joe Biden, and they still have failed to address them. So Why did they let her comment on anything? It's just an epic disaster. Chris, I wanted to ask you. I wanted to put on for you to put on your tinfoil hat along with me.
Sure.
And I wanted to ask you, who do you think bombed the Nord Stream 2 pipeline? What do you think happened there?
If I had to take a wild
Would love
guess,
you to. Yes.
I would have to say it's Russian saboteurs, maybe.
Really?
Yeah. Is that a stretch?
Isn't it their pipeline?
Yeah.
But you know what? Maybe that makes sense.
Yeah.
Maybe that makes sense.
Wait, what happened?
Nord Stream 2 got taken out.
What?
Yeah, it got hit 3 or 4 times.
Yeah.
Holy cow.
Yeah. Bongino was talking about that today.
Today. Oh my gosh.
I think they did it themselves, but they'll try to blame, Ukrainian special op forces destroyed it and want to blame Russia.
It's like a Mission Impossible plot.
You think they did it just because they want to rebuild?
I think they destroyed it because one, they already are cutting back the energy that they're sending to Europe, but they're cutting it back, saying, "Oh, we're just doing routine maintenance. That's why we're only at 70%." Now they can say, "Hey, the pipeline's damaged. It's going to take us months to get it back into operation." And Wes, you do have all these sanctions on us, so it's going to make it even more difficult for us to get parts and everything to repair this pipeline. So hope you guys last through the winter.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, they say
That's basically what they're going to be doing.
They say winter in Europe could be really bad, and winter in the United States can be really bad too if they keep shutting down coal-fired plants and natural gas pipelines here too. I mean, they literally want to Thanos half of America. I mean, it's really horrific. It's really disgusting. It really is. Yeah, I saw that story too, and I was like, what is going on there?
Yeah, I think the Russians did it, and they'll blame it on somebody else, and it'll give them a guise to cut back on sending natural gas to Europe even more. And they have an excuse. Hey, the pipeline is busted.
Wow. Wow.
I see that I'm glad to see this. The House Republicans not wasting any time showing some of what their agenda is going to be next year. Chris, they've already introduced legislation to redirect those IRS expansion funds to the Border Patrol. And you know what? Who can argue that the Border Patrol doesn't need help?
I think the majority of those funds should go for more Border Patrol agents. And as we said yesterday, some of those funds should also go to hiring people so they can answer the phones and answer taxpayers' questions and update the computer systems. That's not the first time that I've heard that the IRS is using computer systems from the 1950s. They are woefully behind on that. And I think $80 billion would go a long way towards modernizing their computer systems.
Yep.
I would think.
Yep. Could not agree more. So, hey, I had 2 quick sports things. So first of all, congrats to the Central Division National League champions, the St. Louis Cardinals, who clinched the division pennant, and that's very exciting. I'm having trouble getting excited about the postseason, though, because I've been watching kind of the standings of the National League over the last couple months, and the Cards may be the least winningest team. I mean, there are some... Not to count them out, because I think the Cards have peaked at the right time, but man, there are some powerhouses in the National League, like the Los Angeles Dodgers, who are like 60 games over 500 right now.
Is this really selfish for me to be thinking this? News Talk STL has a relationship with the Cardinals, and from time to time, we're able to, get tickets to the games. You think we'll get playoff tickets? Can go to playoff games too?
I don't think we are this year.
It's wishful thinking.
I was thinking about it. I was like, hey, when do we get to go?
I don't think we are
game?
this year, but maybe next year. I'm not sure it was in the. I think with the playoff tickets, I think you have to pay out of pocket for those.
Okay.
Yeah. So maybe next year when we're clicking on all
it's a goal
cylinders.
for next year.
That is a goal.
But you know what? It was cool of the Cards to take a chance on us this year.
And
to sponsor our station when they knew. I mean, they know our owners.
Mm-hmm.
They know Jeff Allen and Joe Rush, and they know Tony and Katie, and Chris and I are a little bit newer to the everyday radio scene, but they know our names and faces, and they knew we wouldn't screw up too badly. So
and
thank you.
And the seats weren't bad.
They were awesome,
right down the right field line. So thank you, St. Louis Cardinals.
Yeah, and
go Cardinals.
And they were sponsors of our station. They ran their promos. I heard the promos all the time.
Yeah.
They were very funny promos. They were good about all the giveaways and stuff. And somebody told me that they're going. Oh, Jonathan Heslop, Rockwood Charcoal, was in here earlier today, and he said he's going to a Blues game next week. And I said,
yeah, that's right.
The season. He goes, no, it's like the very end of preseason. And I got some good news today. If you want to pay for it, so if you don't have Charter Spectrum or DirecTV through AT&T, right? AT&T owns DirecTV now, right? Mm-hmm. So if you don't have that, you cannot watch Cardinal baseball or Blues hockey,
right?
Unless you borrow a password and a login from one of your friends. You can't get the Bally's sports programming to play on those platforms. Well, today, something Joe Rush and I were actually just talking about the other week or so. I was like, why doesn't Bally's come out with their own package and make more money and sell this a la carte? Joe said, I think that's coming. They released it yesterday. You can now subscribe to Bally's Sports Plus. You have to pay for it. It's $19.95 a month, but you get a lot of sports for that. And you can do a prepaid thing, and you can pay for it all year. You can pay for an annual subscription, which comes out to $15 a month. And for the most ardent fans, I might do it because, man, during the wintertime when you can't do much outside, I kind of like watching some Blues hockey.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, my goodness, Chris, didn't they tell us it was all going to be cheaper?
Yeah, look, I don't want to go back to the days when you watch the old footage of hockey games or baseball games when there's no advertising on the behind the stands or anything like that. I don't want to go back to that. But it's just to the point now where they're just trying to squeeze every last penny out of us. And it's just so frustrating when you grew up in a time when you could just turn on Channel 11 and, wow, there's the Cardinal game. Turn on Channel 5, there's the Cardinal game. Now it's like you got to get out your program, you got to get out this and to figure out where the game is. It's like, come on, why are you doing this to us?
And the other thing that has been bothering me is, okay, so you sign up for one of these primary systems like YouTube or Hulu or whatever.
Yeah.
And you get to watch, just a few months ago, you got to watch Paramount or you got to watch whatever, HBO. Then all of a sudden, or Disney. Now, then they're like, oh, wait a minute. We'll do most of our best programming on Disney Plus or Paramount Plus or HBO Max. So it doesn't matter if you've got the overarching platform. You still got to buy the separate apps. They told us originally this was all going to save everybody money and you can just pick and choose. Well, you really can't. You still got to buy everything, and you're spending just as much, if not more now.
You are.
Man, I got to tell you, and I'm at that age, I'm 56, and I'm like, thank God that I have an IT wife that knows all this stuff. Because if I was by myself and all these streaming services and all this stuff you have to do and all that, I would be completely lost. Seriously.
Yeah, it's a lot to keep track of.
Becky Arps rules.
Yeah, she does.
I wouldn't be able to keep track of
Becky
any
Arps.
of this stuff.
That is for sure. All right, Chris, Katie, we got to get out of this hour, but we've got another big hour straight ahead with some very special guests. Chris, we get to talk to Mayor Francis Slay.
Oh, yeah.
I haven't spoken to him in a long time. We're going to talk to him about the projected closure of St. Mary's and Rosati Kane High Schools. Yeah, it's all involved in this consolidation effort of the Archdiocese. And Mike Ferguson, host of the Mike Ferguson Show on the marijuana, the devil's lettuce. All of that is up next at 101.9 94.1 News Talk STL.
I saw, I came, I conquered, or should I say I saw, I conquered, I came. This little chico on fire, he no lie.
Hi, Sean Long for STL Fence Works. For over 50 years, our time-honored commitment to quality, service, and affordability make STL Fence Works the go-to authority for fence